She calls me in and she's like, "Dude, David, your daughter, Kara, she finally lost her first tooth." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." I'm like, "How do you know?" I'm like, "Because at the same time, she learned a very important lesson to just not mess with my action figures anymore."
Boy,
man, that was dark.
Sometimes the tooth hurts.
Well, no. Actually, just so you know, it was actually the Armada Unicron. When you put the Minicon in the back, that missile will always catch you right in the face. So
because it's always pointed right at you. There's nothing you can do about it.
Dead end.
It shot out like this. Wow. What is going on tonight, everybody? I'm your host, Extra Zero, and joining me tonight is the usual cast of characters and a very special guest, Protoman, coordinator of TFCon, and a few other things. It is Thursday night,
etc.
And if you're watching us now, you're watching us on YouTube. We are Figure Action, and we are a collector's podcast, and we are very glad to have you with us. Anyway, we want to get into things tonight. We're back from our hiatus after Endgame, and just to let everybody out there know, we are not going to be talking Endgame spoilers tonight. So if you're worried for that, don't be. We do have from last week, we do have a spoiler cast. So if you want to hear thoughts on the movie, including spoilers, be sure to check that out. I believe it was T, Joe, and Matt on that round table.
We sat and thought, there's not a whole lot of videos of people talking about this, so we may as well sit down and add our 2 cents.
None. I mean,
that's right. We were the first.
Who would think on YouTube anybody would talk about a movie right after it came out? I mean, come on. So, anyway, before we get into things, make sure, if you're watching us, make sure to pop into that live chat. So if you have any questions, you can be a part of the show. If you have any questions for Protoman when we get to them, we'll be sure to get to as many as we can. Also, if you like what we're doing, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps us out and helps to get the show out there. If you're not already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can see when our bonus content comes out and when we go live. Let's just run down the panel, see how everybody is doing. Starting off with True Starscreamer, other than knocking out your daughter's tooth, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I am very glad to see you guys. I missed you last week. I really did. So, I feel like part of me I was missing something. So, we're rocking and rolling. About to reset the photo booth later tonight, and all good.
God damn it.
Wow,
sorry,
Joe.
Okay, Joe, I'll leave the photo.
No, sorry about that. No, that was...
I know you don't like change, but come on, man. I didn't think you were that sensitive to my lighting.
I
dropped. Guys need to have a new home.
I dropped Siege's ammo can reel thingy. Siege Hound, yeah.
No, he just dropped the entire line.
I just dropped everything. Yeah.
Wait, just because
could I ask you something about Siege Hound? Do you have the packaging still for it?
No.
Oh, damn. I would have given you guys a little spoiler with that if you did. Do you have the card art? Nothing?
Oh, somewhere here I do.
Does it involve the head?
Under that pile of crap over there.
Yeah, it's about the head. Anyways, we'll talk about it later.
I could take a couple scatter shots at the idea of it.
I actually just got the Repro label kit, and it came with the little roof, so I just put that on. That's why I'm messing with it.
Oh, nice.
I was just noticing, though, that both Joe and Partsformer were playing with their hounds.
That's a joke there, but the dog ran away, so now no one was paying attention, they'd think, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah, but since I saw Zero throw away the mask, I'm safe.
This is true.
Did I really throw it away?
It's just right there. It's never far away. Wherever he is, that mask is never far.
Really?
Pirouette. Anyway, Partsformer. Now that your dingo is gone, how are you?
Well, I mean, I still have my dingo, but thank you for asking. My dog decided to invade. Actually, it was my wife's idea. I saw her peek her head down, then send the dog downstairs to viciously lick me. Hi, I'm good. Ish. That's all I got to add.
Very good. Mr. Joe Crab, aside from dropping the entire siege line in your lap.
I am waiting for that to happen because Recently, like the office that I'm in now that it's getting hot, and the hotter it gets, it's like the humidity builds up in here. So like all the plastic things that are surrounding me are just like shifting ever so slightly. And every day I come in here, there's like Frieza's now on the floor. Piccolo took a shelf dive last week, so yeah, maybe I will drop the entire siege line here. It could be. It could happen live. It just may spontaneously all fall down all at one time.
So there's a chance you could come in and see Yamcha crumpled on the ground.
Yeah.
Yes. Poor. He's perpetually dead in my office. There he is, right there.
Didn't Funko make a dead
TFC
Yamcha
products there?
They did make a dead Yamcha figure.
I didn't get that one. That was like the one I was like, okay. Yeah, I have like the Jeff Goldblum, the Ian Malcolm, where he's like shirtless and splayed out.
I want that.
It should also be noted too that Joe's like ready room there is at the top floor of his house. He's not in like some kind of heating like volcanic layer.
No, and not only that, but I sacrificed the only AC duct in this room is covered by a billy shelf now, so I have no ventilation in here whatsoever.
How loaded is that billy?
It's fairly loaded. Yeah.
I was gonna say if you took 2 blocks and raised it up about a ½ inch on 2 blocks, that air would be able to come out.
That's too much work now at this point. We're way past that.
So would you say you're a steamed crab?
Ooh, good. It is a little. Yeah, I'm brewing some crab soup tonight.
Oh God, no! Now you ruined it. You ruined it. Ruined.
We're moving right along.
All right. You know him. You love him. You've probably clicked on some of his videos, and he's playing with a figure that I've been desperately trying to find. T-Man 978. How are you doing, man?
Hi. I'm good. I'm sleepy. So if we go too long,
you'll be asleep. I haven't watched your review yet, but
I did a ton of comparisons and I swapped Ultra Magnus and all that together.
I know it came out like an hour before the show. I didn't have time, so
that's poor planning on your part, T. Come on.
It is poor planning on my part, but
no, on T's part, I wouldn't blame you, Gordon. You're the victim here.
Yeah, he's got to do that market research.
I am the victim. I'll have it in the background tomorrow during a meeting.
It was really more than an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one raiding boxes for it. Couldn't even wait for him to unpack the pallet.
Oh no, I don't know what she was doing. She was like cleaning up the aisle or something. I'm like, come on now.
You just knocked her out and ran with it.
Articulated Toy Den says the Galaxy Upgrade review is the bomb. So you got some good feedback there.
Thank you. He shared me on Twitter.
Very cool. Very cool. And to our guest, Protoman, how are you doing tonight? And should we call you Protoman during the show? Or
go with Protoman. A lot of people know me as that.
There we go.
I'm doing good. Kind of just ramping up for Free Comic Book Day that's coming up this Sunday. It's always the first, this Saturday, the first Saturday of every May every year. It's Free Comic Book Day, so if you go to your local comic book store, you could get some cool books that are only available that day. There's no Transformer books this time around, but there's a lot of other cool stuff. They're going to have an Avengers book, The Tick, Pokemon book. There's going to be a Ninja Turtles book. So there's a lot of cool stuff there, and you get it for free. And you get to support your local comic book store also if you pick up some stuff there. So I'm kind of just getting ready for that. I've always been a big comic book geek. So
which book would you say you're looking forward to the most?
Probably The Tick, because they don't.
Good choice.
Because they probably don't put out a lot of books a year. The Tick is done through what's called New England Comics, which is a small indie company, and so they only put about like 3 Tick books a year. So it's kind of cool to see some fresh content through them every year, where all the other free comic books are stuff that are done through IDW, Marvel, or DC. And I mean, there's 12 Ninja Turtle books a year. There's 12, if not more, Avengers books a year. So it's just to get something nice from the Tick, because I've always been a big fan of Ben Unwin and all his creations.
There's a great comic tropes video about that just recently.
Yes, I think I saw that one. Yeah, where they talk about the history of the Tick and stuff, and very, very good stuff. Very good stuff. But yeah, that's about it, really. That's about it. Like just kind of ramping up for that, and maybe a little bit of Magic the Gathering too, because the release for their next set is coming up, and I have a bunch of friends that are into that, so I kind of join them for that too.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get to Third Eye Comics at some point on Saturday if I have time. They're a pretty big staple here on the East Coast of Maryland. So normally a lot of shops too, they do good deals on collectibles in addition to comics.
Yeah, well, that's usually they use it as a day to kind of also because they know that it's probably the one time throughout the whole year that they'll have some of those customers, and not to mention it's a weekend that's after Endgame, so the hype is there. So it's people who didn't care about comic books are like, I want to see that Thanos guy, so so they'll go into a comic book store that they've never gone into, and that's their chance to kind of give them their first cigarette in a lot of ways.
There's going to be a Star Wars comic out for this
yes,
year.
There is a Star Wars comic too. Yeah. If you go to, I think it's freecomicbookday.com. It has the list of all the books that you could get, and also they have an app in it that shows which comic book stores near you will be participating. So
they've also got Detective Pikachu. So between Marvel books and Pokemon cards, these places are going to be like
they'll be busy for sure.
Yeah. Very cool.
Speaking, let's go off on a tangent right off real quick. I just had to ask, Joe. Did you post a comment in our chat about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie changing? Is that accurate? I didn't read
that. Is accurate.
That's accurate. That came with a quote from I believe it was a director or producer that said, "We've heard you loud and clear. You don't like it, so we are changing it."
Isn't that a lot of work?
You know what? Yes and no.
Unless he's only like 20% of the movie, which then that's going to be terrible. But
no, because think about it. If he's all CGI, it's just changing the engine and re-rendering everything.
I guess
that's a lot though. But if they're doing
you probably don't have to change a lot of the speed effects. They can all stay.
I actually think it's going to be a lot already. With today's work. I mean, that's just like patching. Honest, as weird as it is, it's just like patching a video game. I bet you the movie itself.
If you click on that link, there's a link to a Reddit that had someone did their own little rendering, and they kept it like in the same basic style with the textures and everything were the same, but they gave him the normal Sonic spindly.
They changed the proportions pretty much
to make it look. I
saw that.
It shouldn't be that hard.
There's a video game commentator that I really like. His name's Yong Ye. And his video the other day it made me laugh out loud. It said the Sonic movie needs Jesus.
I think my favorite one was the Simpsons quote where it's doing like that one thing where Homer's trying to build something in his yard. It had the picture of Detective Pikachu. It says, "This looks great," and he pulls it down. Why does my movie look so horrible?
He's building the barbecue pit.
Exactly.
No, you know what? In all honesty, like it's something that if it would have came out in '93, it would have been hype as hell. But today, no. Like it's, I think the expectations that we have right now is so high for we're the days of the Double Dragon movie are long gone. Like the days of the Super Mario Brother movie are long gone. We have a higher expectation of accuracy to a lot of the brands and stuff, and not to mention a lot of the people that work on these brands. We're not talking like, shallow corporate America. A lot of those guys grew up with those brands now. So there's even more of an excuse for it to be more accurate. Not like, oh, they don't know. They're ignorant to it. So that's why it's not as good. But, that's why a lot of like product today from companies are a lot more fan oriented because the people working at those companies grew up on those products.
Michael Bay notwithstanding.
Yeah. Well, again,
movie prediction right now.
Every
prediction right now. Today is May 2nd. It is 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. Based on that trailer, I guarantee the last image of that movie is the same as the last image of that trailer. I bet you the movie ends with Dr. Robotnik being sent to some desert area, and the last scene is going to be him popping up with the goggles and the actual video game accurate mustache.
Going full.
That's how the game ends.
Pretty much him transforming somewhere in Morbius. Pretty much what you're trying to say.
Well, what I'm saying is that's like that little video game accurate moment of Dr. Robotnik. That's how the movie's going to end on that scene. Right
That'll be the stinger for the sequel.
Well, no, it's just going to be like
not sequel.
The throwback. That's going to be the nod, the video game nod. So that's my prediction right now.
I want to say
they're going to have weird Tails and weird Knuckles show up.
Jeez.
Only if Knuckles promises to show us the way.
Oh God.
He might do that.
Rolling around in the speed of sound.
Voiced by Tyrese.
Anybody see that? God, Jesus. I can't get that out of my head. that tweet by Kenny Omega that said that Jim Carrey's given this movie a Raul Julia level performance.
Well, that's technically the best you could do. You know,
Yeah.
Kenny Omega said that?
As long as he doesn't die afterwards for it. So
Oh no.
Jim
Oh
Carrey's
my
last
God.
movie was Sonic the Hedgehog.
I mean, that how like far fetched is that? When Orson Welles' last movie was Transformers movie.
Wow.
He'd have been so proud.
Bernie Mac died for the 2007 movie. So
Oh my,
yeah.
dude! You're
No, his last movie was,
hitting the nail on the head here.
Soul Man. Actually, it was
true.
like him and Isaac Hayes in a movie together, and that was surreal. Because like Isaac Hayes died like not long after.
And speaking of all that, we got to recognize rest in peace, Chewbacca.
Oh,
Yes.
Peter Mayhew, yeah.
I have
Yeah.
so many videos. I like how he would walk around. He actually had a lightsaber cane for a while.
He's a big guy too.
Yeah.
He did look like he was in kind of rough shape.
That's part of it, you know, like tall dudes like that, you know.
He 74, man. Listen, a lot of people that size actually don't.
Yeah,
make
it's
it that
true.
way.
You're all right, yeah. Usually they don't
Yeah.
make it that long, tall dudes like that.
Giant Gonzalez, just because you mentioned classic wrestling.
Yeah. All those guys, yeah.
Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant had gigantism. That was
Yeah.
a ticking time bomb, that one. Giant Gonzalez was more just a tall dude.
He stayed around long enough to give us Princess Bride, and I'll always love him for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
How old was Andre when he died?
54?
Yeah, pretty young. I think 54, 55, something like that, yeah.
I thought he was younger than that.
No. He was wrestling since he was in his 20s in the late 70s, early 70s in Canada and France, and then
I was off. He was 46, but
there you go.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Close enough. But a downer, to say the least.
Topic change.
Yeah, I think we need to shift it a little bit.
No one asked me how I was doing. Gee.
Oh,
We go through this every show. Jordan, how are you? You magnificent son of a bitch. Tell us all about it.
I'm doing pretty good. It's
Okay,
been
good. Next. No.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much to say. I've just been doing a lot of stuff around the house, doing all yard work and gardening. Yeah, it's really exciting, isn't it? But I have been doing a lot of video gaming, playing a lot of Mortal Kombat 11 and Days Gone, and
you haven't challenged me yet.
You haven't been online.
You've been the working man.
Yeah.
I'm on. You must be already be in bed, or right?
Well, I do go to bed at like 11 now, so.
I know you're not.
Damn, that's late.
I know you're not necessarily asleep, but I know you're.
Man, 11's like early for me.
Yeah, me too. Unfortunately.
Yeah, like I mean, I for like Lex is normally like asleep at like 9:30, and I'm like, ooh, it's video game time. And I get downstairs.
9:30. I'm usually signing on after that. So.
Okay, well.
If we weren't doing this, I'd already be in bed. You all need to go to damn bed.
You
Read Samuel Jackson's book. Go to fuck to sleep.
I read that to my son more than once when he was very little.
And that's why he behaves, and he wants to go to IKEA for fun. We can't go to the trampoline park. Oh, well, can we go to IKEA?
It's like the best hour and a half you ever had, just playing in the little setups in the kitchens and all that.
building a DTOF.
Yeah, Bill Daddy's details.
Put him to work.
That's not a bad idea.
Been
What have
going
I
pretty
done?
good, and
Child labor, that's what you've done. Free child labor.
It's got some I got some cool stuff the past couple of weeks, and
Yeah, while we roll into that, tell us what you got.
Yeah.
Hey, that works, and no one has to ask me. So I got the one figure that I do want to talk about later in the show, and that is Fans Toys Road King, which is a goddamn marvel of engineering, to say the least. Some people don't like the fact that it's all in one. I am just entirely enamored with that. I got the Lightning Collection Lord Zed to go with my Power Ranger stuff, and this figure is also for a Hasbro figure. It's probably single-handedly the most impressive Hasbro figure I've ever owned. Butterfly joints.
It's definitely the best Lord Zed figure that's ever been made because
Oh my God.
they did one, I want to say about 5 years ago. They did the Legends series.
About 5 inches.
What sucks about that one is it looked nice from the front. They didn't paint the back of the figure.
Oh,
and Lord Zed is one of those characters that he has, he has those veins and all the little details and stuff. So it looks nice in the front, and then in the back there wasn't anything. So that's definitely best. And that's probably one of the good things about Hasbro getting the license is that they put more effort into those oh God, is that Bruce Lee?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, D.
I just found out Optimus heads can pop off.
But yeah, the shading on this dude, the tubes running through him, the materials, the articulation, the effects piece, the 2 weapons. I mean, this is just goddamn. This is a perfect figure. In all honesty,
I wish where you spent the $20 on him and you feel damn good about it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's one of those characters that you would have never gotten through SH Figure Arts because he was an American creation.
Very true.
Yep.
So it's the only way that would have happened.
So it gives me high hopes for Goldar and Arita Repulsa.
I could see it.
Goldar and the skull guy, the skeleton guy.
You think
Rito.
Rito will have the
Rito,
pointy
yeah,
boobs?
Rita's brother. No, he really was Rita's brother. And then I also got this beautiful bastard. This is the G2 Arcos. I got
Shiny.
him. Yeah, he's very shiny. And he's going to look real nice on my G2 shelf. What sucked was all the proto pictures, it was just a regular Arcos painted green. So I had literally no idea what I was going to get till I got him today.
How does he scale with Starscream?
I mean, he is a tiny figure next to a large tree. You want me to get G2 Starscream since he's not falling apart anymore?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You healed him. He's all better now.
And then also, while our hiatus was going on, I got the Flame Toys, Optimus Prime the IDW version, the model kit. I'll actually be painting mine, so I'm looking forward to showing that off when I get that done. So that's it for me. Moving on to True Starscreamer. What did you get over the course of the past 2 weeks?
It's actually been pretty active. I would say I've been very stressful at work, so I've been doing a lot of retail therapy. So I'll try to make this quick as I can. To start things off from Hasbro. I can't remember if I showed this off or not, but I did get the 2-pack Hydra pack of Aram Zola and Supreme Hydra. Then it's been definitely Hasbro's been getting all my money. I got all 4. I did get all 4 of the Power Ranger releases, so I do have the White Ranger, Zed, and all the other 2. And I'm pretty much caught up on Overwatch with everybody except Reinhardt. So
You want me to keep an eye out?
I'm 50-50 because he's a big guy, so that shipping's going to be a pain. I think it just might be easier.
That's not going to be bad from Maryland to South Carolina or North Carolina.
But if I can find him here, I think I will. But it's funny. I'm still not complete. I've bought everything on the line, but I'm still not sold on the line. If I was going to, I look at the Overwatch figures and the paint and the detail, and it's everything I've wanted from Hasbro. But the executions just seem slightly off on things. And then we got the Rangers. I think for me, it's going to be the tipping point is when we finally get a pink Ranger to see how well they handle her. Because as much as I love it's funny, like all these figures give the strength of Hasbro, but it also magnifies the weaknesses of Hasbro. Like the single jointed elbow, lack of bicep swivel on the Overwatch figures hurts. And then I know you've got Zed and you probably have the White Ranger. But
I'm getting the White Ranger on Saturday.
For mine, the Dino Charge one, the Red Ranger that came out in this first line, on one of his shoulders, it doesn't want to go all the way up. And that happened to one of my Killmonger figures a while ago. And I'm scared to mess with that joint because I tore the arm out of the socket.
I've heard the hands break at the joints on some people's.
That happened on Tracer.
Yeah.
My Tracer, the hand broke right off of that, which is a shame because she's one of the best.
MMPR reviews, he said that one of the White Rangers, he had the hand broke at the wrist when he was trying to swap it out. Fortunately for me, like I don't feel the need to swap Zed's hands out because the right hand holds the staff, left hand holds the growth grenade. I am 100% cool with that configuration, and it doesn't need to change.
It's just I will say the joint. They have the gummy joints and like
What
for the elbows
I
and
could
knees.
suggest for that, by the way, if you ever get worried about that, because that's something that's been around forever with a lot of toy lines. If you ever do want to swap stuff and you're worried about joints, best thing to do is just take a cup of water, throw it in the microwave for like a minute, and then just dip it. And what happens is it makes it softer and it separates the plastic and the gummy joint, which would then twist and you lose the hand forever. I know that used to happen to me way back in the day when there used to be an old Transformer line called SCF PVCs, and every single one of them, one of the toys, you were going to bust a hand on it. So because the quality wasn't that great. So that's one trick you could do is just boil water, quickest way, and give it a dip.
I've had to straighten many an Iron Man leg out that way.
Yeah, that's another way to do it too. If something is crooked in the package.
It's just for me, I'm just worried about that shoulder joint because it doesn't seem to clear. But and then I said the Overwatch, they're doing a whole hell of a lot on a $20 body, and so when you feel the weaknesses, they definitely show. And these joints get loose.
He's shin height.
The packaging for that was insane.
It was ridiculous. It was.
That was the size of anyone's suitcase.
Yeah.
Oh, and pictures of my haul. It's on my Instagram.
I will say I really appreciate your Lightning Collection photography. I think it came out very well. So,
After that, I have a question. Is growth grenade a euphemism for Viagra?
It could
Came out before Viagra.
Yeah. He was a trendsetter.
Okay.
Well, Rita was already making monsters grow.
Yeah. And that was from the moon, so that's pretty impressive.
Trust me, I knew this one girl what she could do with a moon. Never mind.
Oh boy. Well, to change that subject, Partsformer, what did you get the past 2 weeks?
I was in a mad dash to get all this set up, so I didn't have a chance to collect all of the stuff right here at my desk, but I know what it is. So I got the New Age Jazz, the Monero, who is an awesome little bot and definitely worth the slightly discounted eBay price I got him at. Let me see. Overwatch. I apparently am going in on Overwatch because I got the Mercy Farah 2-pack. I got the Tracer standalone and the Sombra standalone. Which, like, I have to agree with Dave. Like, each one of them has like a ton of strengths and maybe just one or two little nuanced pain in the ass parts that you have to get around.
But that pain in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, my Tracer hasn't had any problems yet. My Farah's got the loose bicep. They're not bad though.
And Sombra, that effect part though, damn.
Yes, Sombra's effect part, and really all of Mercy. Mercy's perfect. I love Mercy. Good night, buddy. Come here. Say hi.
Aww.
You did? All right.
See, it's a family show. The Partsformer family show.
Yeah. Careful.
Are you not going to be done until morning?
We'll see.
That's the excuse makes. That's the excuse he makes.
I'll see you in a little while, bud. I get the I bought Overwatch to play because fuck my life.
It's a fun game.
It is a fun game, but I knew it was going to be a fun game, and I didn't want to get into it, and I did. So my main has been Widowmaker. So I had to get the Figma Widowmaker, so I have her. And
You had to.
He had to.
He had to.
That's the way it works.
Don't start. I think that's all I. And Majin Buu, Evil Boo. I got Evil Boo in.
I think Joe may have gotten him.
Super Boo.
See,
He's hands down one of the best releases from Figure Arts I've ever got.
It is the best ever.
He's amazing.
With Katie, you can just use me as like the litmus. So you'd be like, "Oh, you might think I have a lot of stuff, but look at Jordan's house."
That's true. You can just send me a picture of your Billy's setup.
We just have you over for dinner, and then Lex acts like the basement is a freak show, and that sells at home.
I mean, we're not that far, man. I get hungry. I'm just saying. But that's all I got. I'll wrap that up. We're good.
Right.
Moving on.
So Joe, aside from Evil Boo, what did you get?
Well, and also aside from the Hound add-on kit that I got, the Repo labels. I got a TF Source order in the other day, so I'm kind of rounding out some of the stuff I've been trying to get my hands on. I got the Make Toys
visualizers, very
visualizers,
Cool. One
and
of my favorites.
I finally got the last of my Seekers that I need to complete that set.
Well, you saved Starscream for last?
I bought him, but he's been sitting in the stack. Yeah, and I got the wing fillers for everybody. They're brilliant, by the way, because they have all their prices at the like $19.99 and $9.99 and all that stuff, and you get the free shipping at $150,
nice
I think.
number.
Yeah, so like I was like, okay, I'll add some wing fillers, and then of course it came to like $148.95. I'm like, God damn it! So I had to just keep adding shit to get the free shipping.
You had to, yeah.
Yeah, I had to. And
First world problems.
I also got it looks like a bunch of plexiglass, but I got the Yeti stand that Thomas, I wish I could remember his last name, at the Yeti stand. He put together a demo of this because I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to get the Seekers, Make Toy Seekers. I want to have 2 in jet mode, 1 in bot mode. I want to have 1 stand to display them all. I want to be able to adjust every which way I want to adjust. He put a demo together, told me all the pieces I needed to order off his website. It was a little pricey. I think this came in at like $120, but it's solid as hell. And I've messed around with it a little bit. Once I get it all together, I'll have to take some pictures, but it's really well constructed. I think it's going to be worth every penny. And it comes with these little adapters, so you can get, bot mode or jet mode, and I'll be able to adjust yaw, pitch, all that good stuff. So I should be able to get a nice little display out of that.
On one hand, that was super nice of him to put that together and show it to you and break it down by parts. And the other, he sold a shit ton of them from those pictures, didn't he?
He did, because he put that on TFW, and I saw a lot of people commenting on that. So I should have gotten like an extra discount, because I kind of started that. But no, I paid full price.
Did you tell them that you're part of a show that would get elite guest people to stop by?
I told them I know world famous YouTube celebrities and everything, and it just didn't work. Speaking of YouTube celebrities, I asked a YouTube celebrity about the Motor Master, if he could put that into the little battle base mode of the G1 toy. He totally blew me off. He's like, I'm not going to transform that thing again. What are you, crazy?
Well, I'm a pseudo celebrity, and I'll tell you, no, you can't.
I'm disappointed. I had that toy when I was a kid, but I have no desire for that.
With enough imagination, you can do anything.
I just break it and super glue it all together.
Yeah, when we hang out, I'm sure there will be a Motor Master around, and when you see it and you see the marvel of engineering that it is, you're gonna be like, oh shit, I need this now.
No, not gonna happen. I'm gonna.
You say that. T, are you buying the one from Matt, or are you giving it back?
I just put it in the mail to him today.
Oh,
I want it, but I already have like 2 of these dudes floating around.
Right, so you're gonna go all X-Transbots. I can't blame you on that, because I think the X-Transbots one's gonna be good, and I think their combined one's gonna be awesome.
But I do that's one of Fansoy's best figures that I played with for a long time.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it actually feels like it's fun to be able to play with one without feeling like it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I transformed it like 3 times, and I didn't feel any deterioration like with Rouge. After that first time, I was like, oh no. It just feels like a loose pile of crap.
I watched your video, and what I get scared, that's why I decided I'm not going to get it, is when you're transforming something to the point where, like, when it's in the process, it's like looks like it's 3 feet long and it's just all splayed out. I am going to break that thing, because I'll pick it up the wrong way, and all that weight is going to go to one. It's going to find that one joint, and it'll break. And because that's my luck.
What's damn cool is this backpack just comes out to here, and I mean it's compacted up here. He's got a damn ab crunch and a waist swivel, and I mean it's like it's black magic, dude. Like this turns into the same size truck as MP10 with the trailer. Jesus Christ, it's awesome.
I will admit the legs are the most annoying part.
Yeah, they are. But I mean, it's not when you know where everything. And the cool thing is that everything only folds in one way. But yeah, it's some cool stuff. I can do it without instructions after one try.
Protoman, did you get anything cool this week?
What did I get this week? A lot of stuff still coming in the mail. I'm in Canada, so it takes a little longer for some stuff to get to me because we're on the moon, of course. No, every time I buy stuff off of eBay, sometimes people don't know where we are, so it's like, oh boy. Okay. What do I have? What did I get? I got some Cyberverse stuff. It was on clearance, so I picked up some of that. It's all kind of meh, anyways. I picked up the hot rod. I'm just looking at my shelf right now. I'm trying to remember what I got. Not much. It was kind of a quiet week. Some amiibos, I guess. That's about it, really.
Dude, I love amiibo.
Yeah, some of the newer amiibos came out. Like, here's one that can reach.
Also, Proto, you've never been on before, so you could just lie to us if there's something you wanted to talk about and say you just got it.
Yeah.
Well, if I turn the camera, because anyone that like knows my joint, it's just insane how big it is. It's just wall to wall action figures and glass cases that just keep going forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But I mean, there's a good YouTube video online of my collection. But what did I get this week? There's so much stuff that just come in and out, and I'm just trying to remember.
You're gonna have to give us the link to your collection video.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's pretty messed up. Like I always say to people, I'm like, I do not wish upon people what I have. It's almost too much to take in. Not much really. It's been a quiet week. I think this weekend is going to be really the weekend that I spend a lot of money because I'm going to be hitting up all the shops and stuff. But there's a lot of stuff just coming in the mail right now. I'm waiting for a Beast Wars Megatron, the masterpiece. I never got him. I never got him day one. So picking him up from what I always do, and it's kind of cheap, but what I always do is I wait for people to jump on a masterpiece toy. And you always have that 10% of people that they transform it once and then go, I'm not feeling it. I spent too much. And so then they turn around and sell it and they'll ask 30% less or something.
Fair enough.
And so I do that.
You are waiting.
Yeah, oh no, it happens all the time.
That's like the reverse Amazon Japan strategy.
Well, Amazon Japan is great with large products. Like a good example, that green Unicron that just came out recently. From Amazon Japan, it went 50% off almost the first week it was out. So anyone who jumped on it right away regretted it. So you can pick it up for, I think right now, $80.
I think everyone here has MP44 on Amazon Japan pre-order.
Oh yeah. Well, see, and that one, I don't imagine people dumping that right away.
It's a Prime.
Yeah, it's a Prime. But the best example is I remember when Trax first came out.
Oh yeah.
So many people. Yeah. Well, he was original. I think his original MSRP was like 80 or something, and then everyone was just dumping it. Oh, I'm not feeling this. Oh, it sucks. I'll wait for third party. And so people were getting rid of it for $20, $30, $40, and it was.
I got a Road Rage if you want.
There you go. And Road Rage too, $30, $20. People are just dumping them. So that happens a lot with a lot of Transformer product. And I mean,
Road Rage.
Well, you know what it is? It's people that just they get excited for something, they pre-order it, then they forget about that pre-order, and then one day it shows up at their door. And then they go, I can't afford this, So I got a credit card I need to pay. So they dump it on one of many of the Facebook groups or the buy sell trade on TFW 2005. So that's where I get a lot of my stuff really, because if there's one thing I learned, I don't want to segue to TFCon right away, but if there's one thing I learned from TFCon's charity auction that we run every year in Canada, is that when something is brand new, people will step over their own moms for it. The second it's a year old, they don't even want it in their lives anymore.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot. Like I remember the year that Titan Returns toys came out, we got a whole case of them and we did the auction for it, and people were paying $30, $40 a deluxe. It was nuts.
Dang.
And this was when it was brand new. And then the following year, because our charity auction is reliant heavily on donations, all of a sudden everyone's donating their Titans Return stuff because now they want that power of the Prime, So it's crazy. And so if you're someone who who has patience and wants to collect, and this applies with any toy hobby. If you want to collect on a budget, sometimes it's better to wait it out and see people, parting with some stuff. I mean, sure,
saves pockets.
Yeah, and sure there will be examples where if you waited, you'll miss out. And,
I was going to say, for those folks that wanted that SOC Voltron, I mean, they're getting the reissue,
but the way that I look at it is the amount of money that you save doing that adds up, and then it balances out with the amount of money you might have lost having to buy an overpriced secondary market item. So it's I once did a panel about it, talking about the math of like mainstream toy lines. Like the best example being Transformers, is that if you just wait 1 year after everything comes out, you pick up almost everything 50% off loose from conventions. Like, think of any Power of the Prime toy. Like, almost all of them from every scale, leader class, otherwise, people are selling them loose now for a fraction of the price. And the amount of savings that you would have just buying it in the secondary market. But either way, I'm going on a rant. But yeah.
It's crazy, though, because it's kind of a roller coaster, right? Because it's like you get that period where everything gets cheap, and then it just starts to taper up.
It's always when it's brand new, it's peak product, MSRP, and then it dips heavily after like literally a month after it comes out. Like if you go on sightings forums, it's like, oh man, I just saw this newest wave of Siege Wave 2, and people will go nuts. And then you'll know that like 2 months from now, everyone's going to be like, oh God, it's Siege Wave 2. When is that going to leave already? There's that mentality always of, I want new product. I want new product. Right. I want new product. And they'll pay big money to have new product. They'll do anything to get the new product. And then when they get it, it all of a sudden loses its appeal. And then people want to, they want to part with it. And,
and then there's the Malibu Stacy with the new hat.
Well, that's exactly, I call it the new, I call it new hat syndrome. That's literally what it's called, where it's like people just go nuts for that new repaint or for that new version of a character. And like you said before, MP44 is a prime. That's something that's gonna keep a value and plateau. Same thing like MP10. MP10 came out, God, it feels like 6-7 years ago, and it up until we knew about MP44, he still held his value, MP10, because at that point we thought this is it. That's our prime. That's what we're going to be rolling with moving forward.
And that's even impressive with the avalanche of repaints, reissues, and
oh my God, don't even
KOs. KO'd, to hell and back.
And he's even getting the Ghostbusters version like a month before MP44.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was leaked very early. That one it had a leaked listing of it, and we knew what it was coming. We just didn't know what it was going to look like and its connection to the Ghostbuster comic book that IDW is doing. So, yeah. And that one's going to be a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I read somewhere. So
at least he's only $150.
Yeah, it's very affordable. Because I remember when that MP10 first hit retail, people were scalping the hell out of that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was hitting $300. And I'm like, yeah, okay, go screw yourself. I am not paying that. You know what $300 gets you in Transformers? It gets you like anything you want from G1 practically. Like, especially back then. Like, except for like maybe Minerva, and then a few other like rarer unicorn pieces. But in general, like, it gets you almost anything. And you're going to get like a mass produced, like billions of them out there masterpiece toy. Come on, man. Like, there's better ways to spend your money.
So you're going to get David K to sign that Megatron box?
I've seen David K so many times that it's like I don't even like think about autographs. It's just like my buddy got a rubber ducky signed by him, and he's just like, okay, it's like whatever. It's a little something. No, it's pretty cool. The Megatron, I opened it up. It's already on in the masterpiece display. I like that he scales with all the others, and actually, this is kind of a preview. I don't know if it's public news yet. Wonderfest. Their summer edition in Japan, there's going to be a one-day license. And how they work Wonderfest is guys, they get one-day licenses from Takara to do Transformer-related product. Because in Japan, they're very strict with customs and third-party stuff. And so there's going to be a one-day license kit of a masterpiece scale Scorponok Beast Wars.
What?
Holy shit.
Yeah. I don't know if it's public yet. It's probably going to be showing up in the news probably this weekend, mostly because it's already in the Japanese news websites, and obviously the American websites are not reading it. But
yeah,
so there's going to be that's going to be showing up, and it scales with the masterpiece Beast Wars stuff that's currently out right now.
So
and the only reason why they're doing it is because Scorponok's a long shot. Like that's something that, like, if you had to take a guess who's going to get a masterpiece in the future, a Predacon, there's a lot of other guys they rather do before that.
And the official scale for Scorponok is actually kind of small. Everybody thinks of him be as big.
Yeah,
but
Black Arachnia is like tiny, so
she's not that. Yeah, she's tiny, but she's not that.
He would be something that next to Primal, because Primal to me is kind of the litmus test, kind of the measuring stick of things. Next to Primal, he'd be probably a deluxe size Transformer. So it's something that's reasonable also. And Wonderfest is notorious for these one-day licenses where they'll go to Takara Tomy and go, hey, we want to do this. And Takara Tomy would be like, well, are we doing that anytime in the next 5 years? And so they'll be like, okay, cool, you could do it. And they pay the license fee, and then they bring it to Wonderfest, and everyone just drools over it. So that's going to be coming soon. So that'll be cool.
That's pretty neat.
Very nice.
Wonderfest gets some awesome stuff.
They do. And it always makes me jealous because it's so expensive to buy it through a connection. So it's like, oh man, if I could just be there. So much cool stuff. Japan.
And real quick before we go any further, T-Man, I didn't forget you. What did you get this week?
Oh, nothing. Sorry. This beast just came from me today.
Oh, very nice.
Is that a super soaker?
It is a super soaker, isn't it?
World's smallest super soaker, and that actually works.
That's awesome.
I showed it off in Toy Hunt before that review of Optimus.
See, what he's doing is because Beast is 90s as fuck, and so is that super soaker. So.
Yeah, it is.
He's the only person I've been able to get to hold it. Like every other figure that's 1/12 scale, the handle is way too big for the hand.
That's really cool. That
actually works really well for his character, too.
Yeah.
White Ranger. I don't think I showed this off on the channel. Lord Zed, just like Extra Zero, he's awesome. The review for that's going to be tomorrow if I don't get tired and don't review it.
He looks great on a Snoke throne.
Hasbro Pulse finally remembered they were supposed to send me these two.
Man, even I've had those.
Yes, I've walked past it in the store like a billion times, but I had to get it for $10. I don't know if I sold these off.
Are they outsourcing their shipping department from BBTS?
Probably.
They're worse.
The word got around.
I'm about to call them Fortnite. Overwatch people. And you saw, Ricochet.
Nice.
I like his vehicle mode more than the robot mode. And y'all already saw Optimus. Or Bruce Lee.
But worked surprisingly well.
If there's anything else, I can't remember. We did everybody, right?
Yeah.
He fears not the bot that has 1,000 forms. He fears the bot that has one form that he's transformed 1,000 times.
Ooh. Burning out the transformation cock.
Without
paraphrasing Bruce Lee, sorry.
There's more to do. What are you gonna do? There was more to do.
There was more to do?
More ado.
More ado. So without further ado, let's get into our guest, Protoman. And I want to talk about your involvement with TFCon. For our audience, if you could just go over and just give us a brief synopsis of how you got involved and what your current role is.
Wow. TFCon, well, just to give a quick history too, TFCon started in 2002. It was originally a Canadian-only convention. It pretty much was the answer for Canadians that were just like, man, BotCon's too far away, So we were just like, hey, why don't we just throw together a convention? And, to run a convention is not actually that difficult. It's just, it's all the little logistics and stuff. So the very first TFCon, no joke, was done in a hockey arena. It doesn't get more Canadian than that. But, because it was cheap to rent and everything. And that first show, tons of people came out. And actually, Aaron Black, one of the founders of Repro Labels, was there too. And he brought a lot of his collection that he was selling. And so it did very well. And then it just kind of exploded from there. kind of just exploded from there. Went from being a 1-day show to a 2-day show. And before you know it, we were very lucky because a lot of the voice actors from Beast Wars are Canadian. So they're easy to fly in because they're local. And then we got lucky too, because at the time, Dreamwave Productions that were doing the Transformer comics in 2003, 2004, their head office was in Toronto. So just everything kind of worked out from a guest perspective, which is what really makes it, what makes a show, not just a trade show to a convention, is having the guests, having special guests and stuff like that. So it grew like crazy. And I came on staff, I want to say around 2006, 2007. After going to BotCon since 2001, because to me, even for the longest time, I was like, it's BotCon or nothing. That's how I used to always think. And then I came in 2006, 2007, was brought on to staff. My role primarily is creative. It's a lot of times certain exclusives or bios of characters, they're written by me. The comic book for years has been written by me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was always included. We started to give an example, just TFCon that passed in LA, we had the custom class figure that was a Shattered Glass Megatron. People remember seeing that one. I wrote the bio for that one, and kind of for people who watch Gridman, the new Ultraman based kind of anime series, I kind of put the homages to that and everything. So do a little fan wank kind of stuff here and there that I throw in there. And but that's primarily what I do. I help with the charity auction. I help with the trivia contest. Write a lot of the questions for that. I mean, it's a pretty big staff and stuff. I used to do a lot more in the earlier years, but now it's kind of, when you get the snowball rolling, it kind of rolls on its own and grows and organically does stuff. But I've also done a lot of stuff with Hasbro and BotCon and Fun Publications throughout the years from a creative side too, which was kind of cool because of the opportunities. Working with TFCon led to me getting opportunities to do official stuff afterwards.
Very
and
cool.
I mean the very last year of BotCon, the Beast Wars year, I had a lot to do with that one. I did a lot of the bios and stuff with that.
So did you approach Hasbro, or did they approach you for it?
Well, how I got the job essentially was a Hasbro representative was just kind of chilling at the bar and kind of knew of stuff that I've done. And then yeah, well, it's the old saying, that's where business gets done.
Yep.
It's always the bar, don't hang out in your room if you want to get stuff done, hang out in the bar. And just we kind of, shoot the shit back and forth. And then it's like, hey, Fun Publications is right now working on their last year for BotCon with their Beast Wars set. Would you like to go on and write some of the bios? Because you seem to have a very good grasp of the lore and the fiction. So I wrote the bio for Tarantulas. So I was the first dude to be like, hey, this guy's related to Unicron. I wrote. Yeah, because we all knew it. We all knew it. Just no one ever said it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm going to be the guy who says it. I wrote the golden ticket figure, Ravage, Tigatron. When we were designing the subscription service stuff for 4.0 and 5.0, I contributed a lot with that too. This here and there, a lot of stuff. Combiner Wars from the main standpoint, the bios on the back of those, a lot of those are me. Which kind of sucks because when they got released in Canada, they had French on them, so they cut down the size of them.
Right.
So I couldn't even brag about it. I'd be like, yeah, I wrote these, and then you turn it around, and you're like, oh damn, they fucking ruined it. But yeah, this and that. A lot of creative stuff, comic book creative stuff. Now, a lot of the stuff now that I do in relation to conventions and everything are mostly comic book related or bio related. And I don't even fancy myself a writer. It was just something I kind of fell into. It was just like an opportunity that I got. I'd like to thank, people like Alex Milne, who I've known for years and years. He kind of was one of the first guys that gave me my writing opportunity. Alex, who worked on the IDW comics as one of the head artists, he kind of was like, hey, why don't we collab and do a GoBot comic? And the rest was history, so did a lot of crazy stuff like that. A lot of cool stuff. But that's in a nutshell what I did, more or less.
So what's been your favorite part of working with TFCon and seeing it grow? I mean, obviously they're doing 3 conventions this year, which is
that was a surprise even to me. Let me tell you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I remember when BotCon went away, the discussion was always like, would you guys ever do an American show? And it was always like, the logistics aren't there, crossing the border, blah, blah, blah. And yet we still made it happen. And then the question then came, because Toronto's in the East Coast, and so all the TFCon USAs were always in the East Coast because our logic was, well, we got to be close to home base. And then it was always like, oh, will we ever do a West Coast show? And it was always like, it's too far away. We'd have to fly out. How we'd bring and we still made it happen, So, and then it's like, so will you do a West Coast show and an East Coast show? Kind of like how PAX does, they do PAX East, PAX West, and they're like, that's kind of crazy. And we still did it, So,
and you got a couple of thank yous in the chat from our pals, Lucas Brockman and Nate Simmons, thanking you for bringing it to the West Coast. I know there are a lot of people that were very happy about that.
That was without a doubt, the most successful TFCon we've ever done.
That's
without
awesome.
a doubt.
Really? Wow.
Without I don't want to get into numbers, but it's like, yeah, it was like I've never seen. I mean, number one, even ignoring like just attendance, I've never seen in all my years. I've been going to BotCon since 2001. I've never seen such a spread of guests. Like the amount of guests that we had like 38 voice actors in a total over that's like, San Diego Comic-Con level, turnout of guests. And then the amount of people. And I think part of the reason why it was so successful in the West was because I don't want to blame BotCon because I love BotCon and I love Pete Sinclair and all the stuff they were doing, but I feel like they kind of blue balled the West Coast a little bit, where they used to go there like in 2011, 2012, and then just there was nothing for years.
It kind of coordinated with movies.
Yeah. And then after that, it was just, there was nothing for years. And we weren't much of a help either because we did all our USA shows at that point, DC, Chicago, and Toronto. So it's like the West Coast just was like absent for Transformer conventions for the longest time. And then we did this one, and this was like, it had everybody, like just everything short of Peter Cullen and Frank Welker was there. Like everyone from G1 that was still breathing was present that weekend, and a lot of people that have never done I remember I was hanging out that weekend with the voice actor of Chip Chase, and the little wheelchair human character, and this guy, Courage, and he had never done a convention ever in his life, but yet he lived in LA his whole life, and it just blew his mind. Like he couldn't wrap his mind, and people are coming up to him with a the B drive floppy disk. And they're coming up to him with the sign, and he's just going like, I don't get it. And like, here's me having to explain it to him. And he's just like scratching his chin going like, I think I know how to make money now. Like,
that's like
go on Amazon. Yeah. Well, Vince DiCola is another dude too, that we haven't gotten yet, but that's something I could see in the future.
He did MagFest 2 years ago, and he's just blown away by the amount of fans that not only of Transformers but of Rocky 4.
Yeah, Rocky 4. Yeah, he's one of those people too that if you do something that's iconic, you could ride that out forever. So it's one of those things that a lot of those guys they might have only been known for like one voice acting role. Like Jerry Hauser, it's like all he did was G1 Sandstorm, which is like, I bet you don't even know what that sounds like in your head. Exactly. But he was getting,
he did it.
And the funny thing is he made tons of money that weekend. You know what I mean? Like he made way more than anyone would have expected in terms of autographs and stuff, and good for him. So it was very successful in the West Coast. And again, I can't say anything, but it's like, it's something I could see in the future, us returning, because it was very, very good. And the next one's in DC, but
just reserved my hotel room today.
If you can't say anything, it's okay. A lot of people in the chat are wondering.
It's still too early. It's like,
okay.
Let's put it this way. Toronto's not done yet and DC's not done yet. So to even be talking that far ahead is out of the question.
I can go ahead and give you one breaking news on that one. There will be the unofficial Figure Extra podcast panel in the Hyatt Regency bar at 10 o'clock on Saturday night.
Well, there you go.
One shot, one question.
Well, I'll be bringing my laptop, so
this whole crew will be there at DC.
I'll probably be awake because I won't have to drive 12 hours to get there.
I loved that location too, by the way. That was, in terms of like hangouts, I loved the DC location. I love that the way that like the bar kind of like dipped into the hotel.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I really like, and it was a good surrounding area too.
If you show up, we'll buy you a beer.
Okay. I'll ask for an orange juice. Can't be drunk, can't be drunk on the job, but
that's fair. That's fair. So
I'll take this beer.
So TFCon Toronto is coming up.
Yes.
Is there anything you can tell us? You know, again, I'm not
amazingly.
about...
I'll be honest with you. It's still kind of early.
Really?
Let's put it this way: when it comes to even the exclusives, like people don't realize, like that Starscream that you have, the G2 one that you got from TFCon LA, that was literally being packaged the day of the show.
Wow.
Yeah, that's because how it works with third-party companies. It's not like official product where it's planned months in advance and there's a coordination. There's more of third-party guys going like, well, what do we have available that we would want as an exclusive but not want as a retail product, I guess is the best way to put it. So, like, you don't want to give away a good idea and have it limited. Oh, there's the Starscream with the Bruce Lee. But so it's something that the crazy thing, it's still kind of early. I mean, let's put it this way: if we had an exclusive already planned out, I think it would have been announced by now. Because the thing is, you want people to know as early as possible what we have. That way, they can make their decisions for travel.
Right, and how they're gonna
especially for Canada.
Money. Yeah,
if you're someone in the States and you've never traveled, you got to get a passport that has that's like a 3-month clearance. So
I have the G2 bounce back. The G2 Jazz. And my buddy Oscar just happened to be there, and they only made 120 of them. And
you lucked out because that thing, ooh, boy, did that go up in value after. Oh man.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I ever need to flip it, I could easily get $500 for it.
Oh yeah, and it was not. It was like, I think it was like 120 Canadian, which is like 100 American. So like, yeah. Good investment, that one.
I got a solid question for you. At what point did you guys realize that TFCon, versus the other cons, essentially became the third-party mecca? I mean,
it was more because of BotCon's stance on third party, because at that time BotCon was the show, and Hasbro really kind of stepped in. I want to say 2013, they stepped in one year, and I remember one year we had the product preview panel for Hasbro, where they show all the latest products for Hasbro. And they did this whole like announcement at the end where they're like, oh, and by the way, we're going to have a strong stance on third party. And then we all went back to the dealer room, and like TF Source's table got liquidated. Like, it's like they had to like get rid of all of their third party stuff. And that was like, I don't want to say the beginning of the end, but it was the beginning of Hasbro really like saying, if we do a convention, whether it be San Diego Comic-Con or anything like that, if we're going to be present, we don't want third party there. And so Fun Publications was working with Hasbro for BotCon. So it really was. And then you go, well, then what other show do you have? And TFCon up to that point, at least like since 2007, was always having a third-party exclusive. Like the first third-party exclusive we had was a world's smallest G2 Jazz, which was done by Justy Toys back in the day when Justy Toys was doing world's smallest stuff. This is like super early third-party, and way before even Fans Project. And it just kind of developed from there, where we always had some kind of third party exclusive every year. So it just became like, well, this is the place that's going to have third party stuff. Not to mention that a lot of the developers, like Aegis 3 and Up, located in Vancouver in Canada, and a lot of the other guys. So it just kind of worked out where we had a really good relationship with them, where we had the idea. Hasbro, BotCon was going to have their product preview panel. TFCon's going to have their third-party product preview panel. Right. So we started getting that reputation for that. And when BotCon folded, and I don't want to say folded's a strong word, but when BotCon's license got taken away by Hasbro, and Hasbro kind of had their own little vision of what they were going to do, which was whatever, Hascon, but
that never came back, did it?
No, it didn't.
That's a whole other story for off the air. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I don't want people listening. But anyways, the point is that it's just when BotCon kind of went away, people are just going like, well, all that's left, that's big shows. I mean, there is other Transformer conventions, but they're considerably smaller. TFCon was kind of the only show that was left, and it was the only show that was left, and it had a strong third-party background that it kind of became the face of the convention in a lot of ways, which is a good thing, because you have that freedom from, I don't want to say corporate America, but you have that kind of freedom to do whatever you want without having to worry about a license. I mean, it's called TFCon. It's not called Transformer Con. So you're not like stepping on any trademarks or anything.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's a It's a action figure and toy collectible convention that just so happens to have dealers that sell, unlicensed product based on robots that turn into thingamajigs, so.
Because there's more than Transformers there. There's a lot of.
There's a lot of Power Rangers, GoBots, Voltron.
Ghostbusters was huge.
Ghostbusters, yeah. There's a good mix of everything there. Yeah. So, obviously Transformers is the primary thing there, but there's the legal ways around everything, and that's how we've been doing things for years.
So what's the biggest difference working with Hasbro officially and then working with third party?
Well, I find Hasbro, what's interesting is you learn a lot about trademarking. My favorite story ever with that was when we were doing the golden ticket figure Flash Century, which was they took the reflector toy, they did a reflector character, and they did a clear purple version, which was the golden ticket figure. And I was charged to write the bio and pick a name for him. Now, when you pick a name for a Transformer character, you have to go through Hasbro's trademarking archive, which is whatever they have trademarked at the time. And, and the cool thing about this archive is that it's everything. Like, you could pick a G.I. Joe name if you want, as long as it doesn't, you're not naming it Cobra Commander, but, as long as it makes sense. And so I was going through the names and everything, and I found one character named Flash Century, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really good name. Oh, okay, works for a camera, and everything."
Yeah.
We name it that character. The toy gets released. Everything's fine. I'm at BotCon, and some brony comes up to me. And for people who don't know who bronies are, it's My Little Pony fans who are male and very interesting, to say the least.
Hey, four of us are in the Baltimore area, so
okay.
We know about BronyCon.
A brony came up to me and he's like, "I heard that you're the guy that wrote the bio for Flash Century." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Thanks, by the way, for doing that." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, Flash Century is the name of a My Little Pony character, right?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" Like, because it was in the Hasbro trademarks. And the thing, when you go through Hasbro's trademark archive, it doesn't say where the names are from. When you see Roadblock, you go, okay, G.I. Joe character, but it was used for a G2 character. It was used for an Energon character. So they cross-pollinate all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Keep it active, keep it in use.
Yeah, well, like the Cops toy line that existed way back in the day, fighting crime in a future time, tons of Transformer, like Barricade debuted from there.
Didn't know that.
Like the Long Arm, which is a mini-con, came from Cops. There's a lot of those. And And the funny thing is Hasbro is also sometimes guilty of making toy lines just to keep trademarks. Like, the best example is Creo. Creo was the best way. Like, Creo was like, "Oh man, we're going to be working on this Combiner Wars line in a couple of years, but how are we going to get all those trademarks back?" A year before Combiner Wars came out, Creo did the Creo Combiners, where it was all the Combiner teams done in Creo, and so they managed to get all the trademarks just doing that. So that's kind of the wackiness of it, and that's what I loved working when I worked with FunPub and Hasbro, was you get to see that whole process and how that works.
One of their top lost opportunities of all time for Hasbro is when they bought TSR. That means they also bought HeroClix.
Yeah, well,
they could have fan wanked everything, put every Transformer and the archive name and put it out as a HeroClix.
Well, here's the thing though. When it comes to trademarking, how it works is that they trademark a name and they have it for 3 years, except for like big names, like Optimus Prime is registered. That's like they're never losing that.
That's why we get Jazz, and then we have Autobot Jazz.
Well, that's why we have Autobot Jazz now, because the funny thing with Jazz even was it was Jazz. They lost the license because, back in the late days of G1, they're like, who's going to care about Transformers in a couple of years? Ninja Turtles is huge right now, and then later Power Rangers. So they forgot about it. Then the WWE registered Jazz because they had a female black wrestler that was named Jazz. And so they had the trademark for years and years. Jack Specific had it. And when they did the movie, the 2007 movie, they're just like, we got to do something. So Autobot Jazz, and the rest is history. And so what they do is when you trademark a name, you have it for 3 years. And the rule is that if you trademark the name, the U.S. Patent Office tells you, hey, look, if you trademark a name, you got to use it within those 3 years. Otherwise, we fine you, and we fine you big, and we prevent you from re-trademarking that name for another 3 years. So what's scary about that is if you trademark Hot Rod, let's say, and you don't use it within those 3 years, not only is Hasbro has that name taken away from them, but then they can't re-register for 3 years. And then another company, if they want to be dicks, let's say Mattel or whatever, they could just swoop in and go, thank you. Now we own Hot Rod. See you later.
Yeah, that happened with Bumblebee almost.
Bumblebee was a fight because DC, while they did create the character in 1975, they never made merchandising or product related to her. So there never was a trademark. She was just a character that appeared in the comics. And while a comic book, the title could be trademarked and specific characters could be trademarked with merchandise, the character of Bumblebee was never trademarked, as in the black female superhero. So then enter 1982, the patent is trademarked for Bumblebee, the Volkswagen Beetle, and the rest is history. Yeah. And that got lost in, just like how Jazz got lost. It got lost in I want to say after Generation 2, because they did Generation 2 did the GoBots line, if you remember those. They were they were all like the spy changers, I guess is the best way to call it. They did that to kind of keep all those trademarks, but then Beast Wars happened, and the thing with Beast Wars is 99% of those characters over a span of 5 years were not G1 names. Yeah, you got a Scorponok here and a Dinobot there for that trademark, but most names got lost, including Bumblebee, which would have been perfect in Beast Wars when you think about it. But that got lost. Sorry,
the trademark archive, is that physical or?
You can visit it to a degree from like the public side of things if you go to the U.S. Patent Office. But they don't really share what they have under their belt publicly because of rival companies and, they're going to lose, Ratchet in a couple of weeks, or something like. So they kind of keep that under, like, that's something I could see, but it's through their archive, pretty much through the PDF file, like a shared PDF file is the best way to put it. But you can kind of do your own legwork if you go in the U.S. Patent Office, but you just got to go one at a time. Bludgeon, does this still exist? Tap, 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 oh, okay, they have a trademark. The last time they used it was, 2014 for a Robots in Disguise toy, and stuff like that. It's a little complicated, but it's cool because you learn like why stuff exists. You learn like people go like, oh, why are they doing like, I guess might as well jump into this, like Siege Hound, right? There's plans to do a hot shot from him. They're going to be doing a hot shot from Siege Hound, but specifically the Cybertron Defense hot shot from Cybertron.
That's why I made the scattershot joke earlier.
Yeah. So the thing is that people are probably going to be going like, oh, that's weird. Why are they doing Siege, hot shot? Well, here's the thing. They haven't done a hot shot toy in 3 years and the trademark's coming up. So they got to throw something out there. And usually Hasbro relies on stuff like Bot Shots or Creo or like when they had the Tiny Titans. When they have these small little cheap lines, they could usually throw a name on it, but they don't really have something like that right now. They have like
they have BotBots.
They have BotBots, but the thing with BotBots is no one's named after a licensed character.
True.
It's all these like it's all these like weird, and none of those are trademarked. Most of them. It's like Spud Dud and whatever, and Mr. McCakes. It's like it's a trademark that they're never going to use again. Like it's not going to happen. Like there's I don't see us ever getting a corn dog transformer ever again. Ever again. I could be wrong. Watch tomorrow.
Unless they do Feast Wars.
Yeah. Oh God! Don't give them ideas. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm one of the biggest fans.
I love BotBots, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? It belongs in that price point in that world. We don't need a deluxe scale. Cybertron Siege. Corn dog transformer. Oh, there you go. Or that plunger.
Plunger.
I can't remember his name.
Donald changeables. So if they were to do,
it's okay. You don't need to remember his name. It's not.
Some third-party company needs to do masterpiece changeables. That's all I'm asking.
That's what I always joke about. I always say like third party, what they do is they kind of wait for nostalgia to roll around.
Yeah.
And so like 20 years from now, you're gonna have kids that grew up on BotBots, and they're gonna be like, "Yo, man, where's my masterpiece scale third party, corn dog transformer? Yeah, I grew up on that. That's my Optimus Prime.
Full size donut.
Yeah, exactly. The donut one. Yeah.
It's funny you just said that. You just made me think, why do we not have third-party representation of the McDonald's Transformers toys?
No demand. Like
I
No,
still
there
have
is.
the
I
G1 right
demand it.
here. I have the G1 right here. I keep it right next to my phone.
that's the Big Mac one. The funny thing is that a lot of the decisions that are made third party from the mass exclusives, not like the when you get a G2 Starscream exclusive, that's more for a con. So when you do convention exclusives, you could go with the wacky ideas because it's limited numbers. So if it doesn't do well, we only made 150 of them. It's not a big deal. So you could take more risks. You could do like they did. You could do like you did one year. We did Death's Head, using that lockdown mold. So you could like take these, risky ideas that normally wouldn't do well if you made like 1,000 of them or 2,000, like any of the mainstream ones are. But third party, what they usually do is they kind of look at the demand. They look at the market and they go, all right, what's Takara Tomy not doing now? And you have to understand, a lot of these are made in the same factories, so they know, like, that's the thing too. Like when they do a third party company does something, that like something else is coming. Like if all of a sudden a third party company did like a masterpiece,
Inferno.
yeah. Well, that's what always happens. Like, let me tell you something. Like, I mean, I don't know what's coming on the masterpiece side of things from Takara Tomy, but like all these RCs that we've been getting, that tells me something. You know what I mean? That tells me that that's probably something that's in the pipes. So they know in advance, and because third party doesn't have to worry about budget, doesn't have to worry about safety requirements and all that stuff. They could put stuff from concept to product a lot quicker than say a Takara Tomy. They could really churn it out as much faster. And now with the advent of 3D printing and everything, you could put stuff to prototype and test shot like so quickly that a lot of stuff just gets put out there. And I mean, the one thing I like about third party, like to me, third party, the most important thing it should be is it fills the gaps where I feel Takara Tomy and Hasbro will never go. Like, yeah. I understand, like, like you're holding the third party Motormaster there. I feel that one day, now granted, it might not be in the next 5 years, but I feel one day we might get to that point. But then when we get stuff like third party, Super Mario Brother Transformers, which we got at TFCon 2011 was we got these third party Super Mario Transformers. Like, that's something I know Hasbro would never do. I mean, like,
what's crazy to think is not only that, but like here we're getting Beast Wars. It's cool we're getting Beast Wars stuff, but there's so many G1 characters that there's the argument that's always made, and I'm a big opponent of it, that the well is running dry because third party's already done it. But it's like, when are we going to get official characters? Because they keep retreading characters. We're getting our third Optimus Prime, our second Bumblebee. We've had 2 Megatrons. We've had 2 Starscreams already.
Well, the argument that I could give with those is those were also characters that when they got their first masterpiece, they were products of the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially in the case of the Megatron. The Megatron was MPO4, which was like really early in the lifespan of that line.
It was 05.
And was it 05?
Yeah, it was 05.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I think 03 was the Starscream. Anyways, the point is that it's something that you look at that Megatron next to like your Soundwave, and you go like, woof, needs an update. It
doesn't stack up, but
it needs an update. And then it's the same thing even with the Starscream. When they did that MP3 Starscream, they brought in the guy from Macross, Katamori or whatever his name was. He was the one who designed it. And, people were kind of, hit or miss with that one because of the way the legs were with the
like sheath.
Yeah, the kibble.
Sheath skirts.
Yeah. So like, the engineering wasn't there yet. So revisiting is fine. It's the same thing. Look, in a lot of ways, they even revisited Hot Rod because the MP9 was what it was back then. And then it's like MP9 came out, and that was Hot Rod Rodimus, and then MP10 Optimus came out, and then that was like the new era in a lot of ways. So they wanted to revisit those characters. Also, I think MP44 that we're getting, it's Optimus Prime. I think they always want to revisit it and retool it and see what they could do.
Oh yeah, and I mean, the thing is, it's like
35th anniversary excuse, the whole 9 yards there.
I can excuse redos of characters. I just kind of wish that they would focus on getting things out at the speed that third party. Granted, I prefer quality over quantity, but in the same token, it's frustrating when there's so many core characters that they still need to do that they could do better than third party.
The argument too is also it's demand. Number one, all of Masterpiece product, you have to understand, is a Japanese product before it's an American product.
Right.
Like so a lot of that's why it took so long to get Soundwave, because to us Soundwave is this iconic character with Frank Welker's voice and stuff. Wasn't the same thing in Japan. You know what I mean? So they don't get Soundwave like we get Soundwave. So it took much longer to get a Soundwave Masterpiece than a Starscream, and then all the repaints that came of it.
Right.
So to give an example, like we're missing right now, let's say Hoist and Trailbreaker, right? We don't have an official Hoist and Trailbreaker. Now you have to ask yourself, they're going to put all the time and effort into engineering and everything. How well do you think that'll sell, as opposed to third party that could make less units, doesn't have to worry about it showing up in retail like Japan has to. It's all sold out of garages in a lot of ways when you think about it. This all leaves like factories and then goes directly to online stores. It doesn't have to worry about making a deal with Justco or any of the other Japanese companies and going like, hey, how many units of Masterpiece Beast Wars Megatron do you need per case, and blah, blah, blah. Like there's that whole political thing of it and the business side of it too. I mean, Black Arachnia to me was a surprise, because Japan is not big on villain characters. They really aren't.
Yeah.
And up to that point, most villain characters that we got in Masterpiece were either repaints of stuff, like, shoehorned into a villain, like Exhaust. Like, oh, we're going to take Wheeljack and turn him into a villain. We're going to take, I'm trying to just look here, like they repainted Starscream to death just to like fill out the bad guys, and so many of the others. But in general, like, you got a Shockwave, you got a Soundwave, you got a Megatron, core G1 characters. But then it's like, would they roll the dice, on some of the others? How well would Reflector sell on the Takara Tomy side of things?
So let me ask you, where does that leave Jazz?
Jazz was the problem with Jazz for the longest time. It was a licensing issue, because up until the Bumblebee movie, here's a long story short, Porsche for years, and this applies to like not just Transformers, but anything. They didn't want any of their vehicles being used in war-related stuff, because they have a history with Nazi Germany and everything.
Aren't so they kind of VW and Porsche like under the same umbrella now?
Well, here's what happened. So then a couple years, I want to say like 2007, 2008, Volkswagen bought out Porsche, and when Volkswagen bought out Porsche, then the sentiment started to kind of shift. And it kind of went like, okay, like maybe we're willing to play ball here and there. And it still wasn't 100%, but, they were kind of playing with the idea. But what they did first is like, let's do it with Bumblebee first. We own, Volkswagen owns Volkswagen. So they're like, let's do a Bumblebee first. So it's more just, I could see Jazz now coming within the next 5 years for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we get a leak of something. I wouldn't even be surprised. But I could see Jazz being more of a reality now than he could have been 5 years ago.
Jazz is a figure I've been hearing that's already been done in prototype for
a long time. It's something that, even when back in the day when they were working on alternators, they did a prototype of a Jazz that turned into a Porsche, and then it was just kind of like, nope, can't do Porsche, no. So back then when alternators was all about the licensed cars and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was hurt when they showed that Jazz prototype, and I'm like, we're never going to get it.
Yeah. No, but you know what, though? You know what? The thing with Jazz is, I mean, the cool thing is we're getting a lot of really good Porsche-esque kind of product of him now. That's a character that's heavily associated with the Porsche, like more than any Transformer outside of like Dead End from like the Stunticons. I'm a car mechanic too, by the way, by profession. So that's why I love car designs. And it's just like Jazz is just one of those guys that like, even when they do, like you showed Ricochet before, and like you see the Porsche inspired Le Mans look in that alt mode, even though it's not 100% a Porsche, you see like it looks like a Le Mans Porsche. Like there's an old Steve McQueen movie called Le Mans where he drives a Le Mans Porsche, and it looks very similar to that in shape. And Hasbro's notorious for, if you do an alt mode and you just change the headlights just a little bit, you don't have to pay that car company. You know, it looks like a Nissan, but if we change the headlights just like this, you know, we don't have to pay Nissan for their, you know, for their Skyline or whatever car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they're notorious for doing stuff like that because Lord knows they had to do it with all the movie toys.
So I have a question on that. Like with third party, right? And I know people have seen speculation with both Masterpiece and the Siege line. Hasbro can just, you know, because everything is I don't want to say it's intellectual property theft.
It's a mess.
But yeah. It's a mess, yeah.
Aaron Archer did an interview in 2014, and someone asked him. This is when Aaron Archer was still with Hasbro, and they said, "What's Hasbro's stand on third party?" And Aaron Archer said it straight up. He's like, "There is a book in our office that has every single third party product ever made documented, ever, meaning like every time something is made, we note it." And he said, because one day the hammer's going to come down. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be 5 years from now, but we're making sure when X company made Ultra Magnus look-alike number 17, we have a record of that. And so they know what's going on. And when the powers that be shifted over and John Warden took over, and then I call that the Combiner Wars era.
Yeah.
When he took over, they really started looking hard at third party because they were just like, you know, especially when Combiner Wars was a thing. This was like when every third party company was doing a combiner team. You know, like you had like 3 different Superions to choose from, 3 different Menosaurs. I mean, we're even having this discussion now on a Masterpiece scale. But back then, when Generations and Classics was the jam back then, you know, so it's just they something like they want to get involved, but China really is the Wild West. It really is difficult. Like recently in the news, Lego just recently like busted like a whole bunch of these a whole bunch of companies. So it's starting. It's slowly as China's going to be more working closely with these big companies, slowly stuff will get involved. But as long as if you're running a third party company off of Canada, USA, you're pretty much politically safe from someone knocking you down for making a bootleg of Wheelie, you know?
I've had a theory. Tell me if I'm wrong, but do they let it slide a little bit now? Because I kind of think that the huge third party market out there helps keep the interest going.
No,
and if you were just looking at let's just look at Masterpiece. If you were just looking at like how often Takara Tomi's putting out a release, if it was just them, would it be enough to keep our interest?
Well, see, the first thing that I want to get into is that at the end of the day, they're business companies that have to appease shareholders. And they're never going to turn to a shareholder and go, "Oh, don't worry, guys. Like, it's keeping the interest in the hobby. Sure, we lost a ton of money because people were buying third-party combiners instead of Combiner Wars." They don't want to do that. At the end of the day, if they could, they would eradicate it all. They don't see it from it keeps the interest, because the reality is, and I understand that perspective, but the reality is that if it never existed, you would have bought the Hasbro product.
See, my perception is I see a lot of engineering cues in current Takara Tomy designs that I originally saw in third party.
Oh, totally. I agree with you 100% with that. But I think that has more so due to the fact that engineering within Transformers is always an evolution slope.
That's a good point too.
Where like the best example is anyone who messed with animated toys, like Transformers.
Absolutely.
Transformers Animated really was this point where they figured out how to work with, I like to use the term subspace, where they were able to really work with certain characters and get a new twist out of them that can make more space or compact something and look really show accurate. Some characters that you would look at their legs and go like, how the hell does that transform? Like it doesn't even
Prowl.
or Prowl, or even a Hot Rod. Like you go like, where's the kibble on that? Where's the car parts? Like, where did it go? You know? And they figured it out. And so when Animated came around, all those engineers on Animated, and you could look it up on the TF Wiki and stuff, a lot of those guys moved on to Masterpiece and the movie lines, and they brought that expertise. I would not be surprised if those same guys, and the best example of that was again, going back to Gridman, which was a recent anime that came out, they did an interview with one of the Gridman designers for the show who works on Sentai product and stuff, and they showed his desk, right? Now, obviously, they didn't like really focus on his desk and stuff, but you saw he had third-party product on his desk. And so it shows that even designers of official big companies like Bandai and Plex and Takara Tomy, they're messing with that stuff. Now, if you're an engineer and you're messing with that stuff, and then all of a sudden you see, oh, look how they managed to put the trigger on Megatron's crotch and engineer it like this. You don't think that's going to sink in the back of your brain next time you're going to tackle it? You know, so it's, and again, I'm not saying that it happened, but you know, if you're a basketball player and you watch some other guy play basketball who's good, you're going to steal something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If it works for them, it's going to work for you.
When messing with this Motor Master.
And what are they going to do? Sue us? We own the property.
Right.
Come at me, bro. You know, like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to say, hey, like, you know, you stole our intellectual property that we stole from you. You know, it's like, it's so, if anything, it's like, hey, let them do the work for us. And then we're just going to, you know, tweak it and slap the Takara Tomy logo on it. And the rest is history. I mean,
that's what happened with Siege Jetfire.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a figure that takes a lot of cues from the Fans Toys design.
And that was a toy that they invented a new price point, the Commander price point, which is kind of this like, you know, it's not the Titan price point, but it's not a leader class. It's this high end in between kind of thing. So that, you know, and the thing with price points is then it gives you more budget to work with. The more higher the price point, the more they can mess around, the more they can have paint applications and plastic pieces. So they have that Commander price point, and they're going like, you know, we could now make people regret buying some of their third party stuff, you know, which look, as crazy as it sounds, when that Titan Return, when that Devastator came out from Combiner Wars, a lot of people who had third-party Combiner Wars stuff, Giant, Hercules, and let me tell you, Giant and Hercules is way better on an engineering standpoint than
I was one of those people that was my masterpiece scale Devastator for a hot minute.
But people got rid of their third-party ones to get the Hasbro one.
Even that's what I'm saying. The Hasbro one was my Devastator.
Yeah. And so Hasbro's aware that sometimes when they make the official product, people get rid of the third-party one. And I see that firsthand at TFCon where people go, oh, well, now we got an official version of Sunstreaker. I don't need my Bad Cube anymore. You know, I don't need this. I don't need that. So, and it happens. And even if the Bad Cube has better engineering, even if it has better stuff, they want the blessing, you know, from the
right.
I know it sounds silly, but it's true. It
holds its value.
You're right.
So for people to give the argument, oh, it keeps interest, they see the other side of it where it also keeps the making money. You know, like it's
Laser Wave and Quake Blast and Laser Wave.
Oh my God! Well, that whole thing where, like, you know, when Quake Wave came around, and that was like everyone's Shockwave for years, and people were paying big money for Quake Wave, and then here comes Laser Wave Masterpiece, and the rest is history. You know, next thing you know,
it's also like free market research for them too, because they can kind of watch what's going on, and then it's like
they see the mistakes that the third party companies make. They see the engineering, and then they know. You know, imagine if someone else is willing to make all the mistakes for you, and then you like to use. I don't want to get off topic, but that's how Nintendo survived against Sega. Because Sega would be like, we're going to do CDs first. All right, you do that. And then we're going to see how that works out for you. We're going to do color handhelds first. Okay, you do that. We'll see how that works out for you. We're going to do backwards compatibility. Okay, we'll see how that works out for you. They were the ones to do everything first, but they were also the ones to make all the mistakes first. And then other companies, PlayStation and Nintendo, took advantage of those mistakes. And it's the same thing here. Like even Sega Channel, that's like the prototype to the internet in a lot of ways.
That's the prototype to Xbox
streaming. Xbox Live and everything.
Well, not even Xbox Live. It's Xbox Games Pass.
That's just it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing that's going on here. If you have a company that in a lot of ways is kind of your rival and taking away your money, if they're willing to do the work for you for your own property, and then you could at any point just swoop in and do it better, assuming that you learn from their mistakes. I mean, how many different, and I don't want to have to swear, but how many different fucking Megatrons did we have? G1 Megatron.
5?
You know, like how many Hexatrons and Jesus, like,
yeah.
and then Takar just comes in and goes, boom, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
and which one holds its value? That's my thing with everybody jumping on the transform element and Magic Square. They both look great, but I'm like, when MP44 hits, people are going to be dumping these for $40.
Oh yeah, totally. And again, for all you know, one of those third-party ones will still be better, but it doesn't matter because people just want to have the official product. And the truth is, from a investment standpoint, usually the official product holds its value way more. Like, there isn't a good third-party Trax that is better than that Masterpiece one. So even though that Masterpiece one is terrible, there isn't a counter argument that could say, like, this one is better or something like that.
Who really cares to make a Trax?
Well, and that's the sad thing too, is that you could argue that, well, here's all these characters that haven't been done yet, but it's really just it's Takara going, like, I could see them doing RC, Cup, Blur, Springer. But then after that, it's like you might have to look to third party within the next 10 years for Sandstorm,
And that's the thing, is like third party is just kind of a roll of the dice, because it's like, while we're capable of maintaining these collections, right? It's like we want to make sure we can get every representation of the character while we can.
Well, and the funny thing is too, like, you're showing off a Motormaster here. Not too long ago, there was other third-party companies making their own Motormasters, and at that point, that was the Motormaster to have. So there's even that kind of chase that goes on, where even just if you're just collecting just third-party, even then you don't even know if you have the best version of that character, but you just spent $100, or $200 in some cases. So it's kind of difficult, and it's something where you have a group of people that just kind of wait until Takara does something, because they know, like, with third party, it's this battle that goes on, and then
which
a new
turn makes all of us product testers for.
We are
product testers that pay for it big time.
So
now, do you think that they look at
alpha?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yep.
Do you think that they look at the like the G1 stuff that they're working on and the Beast Wars stuff? Well, then I guess there's really not a whole lot of Beast Wars, but
perfect effects death in the waters.
But do they look at that stuff more closely than, say, like the IDW third party stuff, or like the cross dimension make toys and the kind of one-offs?
The rule of thumb right now, what's going on in the toy industry is, number one, kids aren't playing with toys anymore, and so the prime market that's buying toys today are age 25 to 35. And so whatever falls into that age 25 to 35 nostalgic bubble becomes the prime market. To give a good example, with T-Man over there, right next to his arm is something that was some kid's Optimus Prime when he was 7 years old, when Cybertron came out in 2006. So think about that. If you were, well, there you go. If you were 9 years old when Cybertron came out in 2005, 2006, think about it. You now have your first job, but you still work at home. You're 25. You got disposable income. You're going to target that audience now. So that's what's happening, is that they target. That's why we got Cheetor, Dinobot, and Beast Wars Megatron so close together, because Beast Wars is the G1 of this generation right now. Because G1 collectors who grew up on G1, I grew up on G1, we're turning 35, 36, 37. Some of them are in their 40s. They got a mortgage. They got kids. They don't have as much money to blow on a lot of product. So they kind of shift the focus to people. Look, the reality is, most of you guys were just showing, Fortnite figures here. But I understand you guys bought it, but you know who's also buying it? Kids that are fucking 18, 19, that's the core market. So that's the ones that are spending money, because they want the people that they work, but they also they still live with their parents. And that's the 25 to 35. That, because they have the most disposable income. They get, even if you work at Burger King and you make $400 a paycheck every 2 weeks, that $400 is still all yours. You don't got to worry about a bill. You don't got to worry about rent. So you could go out there and throw it at a Masterpiece Transformer and not even think twice. And that's the market. And That's why we're seeing a lot of Cybertron homages. That's why, and not just from Hasbro and Takara, but from third party too.
Yeah, Transform and Rollout's doing their own Cybertron.
Yeah, well,
Prime.
they have the Cybertron Prime coming out. We had Meteor that wasn't too long ago with Starscream. So
there's a Scatter Shot that's coming out.
The Scatter Shot, yeah. So there's a demand.
There an Armada Prime coming out?
Yeah. Fans Hobby's doing it.
Yep. Well, also the one that's coming out from Hasbro. They're going to be doing one too.
Yeah.
So we have an Armada Prime coming from at least from the Takara Legends side. We only saw it at Wonderfest. We just saw the resins. But the point is that you see that's the market now. Like the guys who were nostalgic for people still like G1 because it's iconic. You didn't have to grow up with Star Wars to appreciate Star Wars. You know what I mean? And so it's the same thing. But they also see how there's people that grew up with Jar Jar Binks, as crazy as that sounds. And some people might have for some people, their first Star Wars movie was Episode 1. Shame on them, but that's not the point.
See, but that's the thing is people have a toy. Like back when toys were popular with kids, they had a popular toy, regardless of what the character was.
That market is dying heavily, and Japan is the prototype for that because they see in Japan how toy sales for children is dying. It is brutal over there. But
did you hear the latest casualty for that?
Well, the thing is with like Sentai.
Yeah, Sentai. I was about to say this is the last Power Rangers generation to come out planned for years.
Well, see, and the thing is that the primary reason why we get all this great stuff from Japan, the SH Figure Arts, the Figmas, the masterpieces, we get all that stuff from Japan because Japan is primarily a adult market. And so all those toys that are engineered are aimed at adults, where America still thinks there's kids out there buying toys. And there is, but it's not as much as it used to be.
What they want it to be.
It's not, well, it's, it blew my mind when I was at TFCon 2 years ago. This mom just handed their kid in a stroller a cell phone, but they handed the phone to them upside down. And the kid turned it up the other way, pushed the button in the center, and then put in the password. And my mouth dropped. And I was my mouth was like, oh my God, how, this kid could have been 1.5. And it turned the phone the right way and put in the password. And I was like, we're dead. We're dead in the water. This is the end of our, and the flip side of it also is when you run TFCon, when you're there on the Friday night and the dealers are first setting up and stuff, a lot of the dealers, they have kids and they bring the kids with. And it's crazy because you see the kids. Here's daddy. Daddy is setting up the toy displays and all the Transformers and everything. And their son is sitting on the floor on their phone or on their tablet playing Fruit Ninja. And they're just rolling their eyes going, oh my God, my dad with his toys, where if I was in his situation when I was a kid, I would have been in heaven. But for them, they're just like, oh my God, I just want to get out of here. They're not interested. They don't care.
My daughter actually.
Sorry?
So can you imagine if they change commercials instead of having kids in them, they just have adults?
You know what? You know what? That's why Japan was smart. If you actually go back and watch Japanese Transformer commercials, they never had kids in them because they knew that it could be either way. They'd always have stop motion, and they do that even with Sentai toys too. They make sure that the commercials don't have, specifically one group of people playing with them. So where America, it's always been, it's boys that are playing with their toys, and it's.
Well, Saturday Night Live did that parody commercial with
Star Wars ones, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the reality is that it's the 90s was the toy boom in a lot of ways. And that's when it started becoming a speculative adult collectible, where all of a sudden these Power of the Force toys might be worth money one day.
Yeah.
Well, but I was going to say, a couple months ago, I was putting my daughter's 6 years old, and I was putting her to bed, and she was talking about my stuff, and Dad, you got a lot of things. I said, yeah, but I'm going to get rid of some of it. But I might give you all my Harley Quinn things. And she's like, what? I said, yeah, I'll give you some of my Harley Quinns. And she's like, Dad, I'm a kid. What am I going to do with those?
There you go. See, and that's you know what though, but the comparison of that is if my father's a toy collector. I grew up in that environment and he collects die-cast cars. And it's the same thing. If my dad turned to me one day and said, oh, I'm giving you these are Dinkies and Corgis. It's the 50s and the 60s of Matchbox and Hot Wheels. I'm going to give you all of this. I'd be like, man, what the fuck am I going to do with this? Like put it on eBay. Well, like put it on eBay, Pop, just sell it, enjoy it. Like, that's the flip. It's to them, it's like, it's tablets, it's video games. That's their generation. And hey, it happens.
She likes my stuff. She's got a dollhouse. I actually caught her.
How old is she? Just out of curiosity.
My girl is 6 years old.
Okay, so she's still young. Let's see what happens when she turns like 12.
Well,
that's gonna melt away.
What she does, no. What I'm saying is, what she does is that I do a lot of photography.
Okay.
So yes, she does have a tablet, and she uses the camera function and starts doing the poses because I do ACBA, and she is doing that with her dollhouse.
Well, she's doing what daddy's doing. Kids emulate their parents all the time, but sooner or later you're going to see that. It's the crazy thing is with the exception of Skylanders, when that was really hot, the number one toy product with kids was always an electronic device and not a toy. Skylanders was still a video game, but it had a toy aspect to it.
Right.
But otherwise it was always, ask any kid what they want on Christmas. In the 80s and the 90s, it was a toy. Ask a kid today what they want under that Christmas tree. It's a cell phone. It's a tablet. It's a video game system.
Very true.
And the reality is that's not plastic product. And so as time progresses, it's becoming more and more difficult for toy companies to again, Hasbro, the reason why they created Rescue Bots was because in their mind, they felt like we need to nurture a new audience. We need to get them now in their preschool years so that even when they're preschoolers, they have a connection to Optimus Prime. So we need to make Transformer toys that are for ages 3 and under, not just 3 and over.
So one of my things is, and I'm a big proponent of this, is I think it has a lot to do with the lore, right? And the one key thing about the 80s was that they were able to open it up and say, okay, we're allowed to have Saturday morning cartoons basically be glorified
commercials, of course.
Commercials. And they did their job so well, and it wasn't necessarily that they were selling toys as much as they were selling characters and the conjunction of...
I have a complete answer for this. So recently Hasbro did their first quarter reporting of their money that they made this year, pretty much. Brands that they own increased 2%, which isn't great, but it means that they made some money, meaning like Transformers, G.I. Joe, maybe it was mostly Transformers, but then they said that brands that they're partnered with went down 14%. And here's the problem that they have right now. Are these Avengers movies doing well? Of course. They're doing insanely well. They're making tons of money. Is every kid learning the lore and understanding the story of Thanos and blah, 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 and the Infinity Stones? Yes. But here's the problem. They don't care about toys, though. They will love the Avengers movie, but then they're going to go out and download an Avengers app and play a game. They rather play an MMORPG, or they'll play Fortnite that has an Avengers, like stuff like that installed in it. They rather have that. And what's happening is Hasbro's going like, okay, so we're making Avengers toys, we're making Endgame toys, but no one's buying it. Why is that? Well, if you're an adult collector, you're probably going to get either the Legend scale stuff, which is more high end, or the really adult collectors will get like, Hot Toys or Sideshow collectibles, whatever that might be. So you go into Toys R Us, you go into Walmart, you look at Captain Marvel.
You guys have Toys R Us.
Well, but I'm just giving an equivalent. Okay, then Target, and you go there and you look at Captain Marvel, Black Panther, what was the other one? Ant-Man and Wasp, and Endgame. Those sections that existed, and you look at these dolls and go, "That's not for me." But my daughter doesn't care about dolls either, so who's that for? Then you look at the Endgame toys or the Black Panther toys or the Ant-Man and Wasp toys, and you go, okay, the Legend stuff, I can understand who that's marketed at, but what about these lower-end 5-inch, no articulation figures? That's not for me.
Like they're wasting their money.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, like, my kids, like, they still do play with toys a lot, but they're not into like action figures and stuff like that. But they will watch YouTube videos of other kids and their parents playing with toys.
How do you think Pootie
but they don't want the toys.
Well, that's number one. The YouTube market, number one. That's why YouTube toy reviewers do so well and can make a living out of it. And that's why someone like PewDiePie, who does video game playing, kids rather stare at a screen and watch someone else engage with product, whether it be video games or actual toys, than actually engage themselves. Number two, also the reality is they're not the spending power. They're a kid. You know, Matt, when we were a kid, you know, we were lucky if we could, you know, scrounge something out of our parents when we took a trip somewhere and go, please, could I get that or whatever? But we didn't have our own disposable income. So imagine when we were kids, if at any, like, and that's the thing that I think we need to understand. Imagine back in the day when we had our Super Nintendo or our N64, imagine if at any point we could turn it on and download a free demo of one of thousands of games.
Yeah.
And that's what our phone is. Our phone has thousands of demos or free, you know, pay to play games and stuff, and they could just live on that forever. Where us, we had to wait till Friday to rent from Blockbuster or your mom and pop. You know what I mean? Like it's a different world. So it's the same thing for toys. How do they get their free fix? They have to watch, you know, someone do a toy review. If they care about toys,
the biggest inconvenience for them is they got to sit through like an ad or two.
Well, and the thing is, like, I don't know how much subscribers T-Man has, but I'm pretty sure if you look at your analytics, you could probably see what is the age groups and the genders and stuff like that, and you could find out your specifics, and you'll see it's not kids under 18. You won't.
They're close to our age, basically.
Yeah. I see it with my videos too. It's primarily adult males between the ages of 25 and 35. You know, that's what a surprise. Exactly what Hasbro says.
Than that. It's like 35 to 45.
Well, damn. Okay. So, you know, but there you go. But that's what I'm trying to say. So it's just, that's the reality is where if you do a video game review, let's say something like, again, PewDiePie, Game Grumps or something, I'm pretty sure it skews much lower. I'm pretty sure it's under 18. It's younger. It's probably a lot more boys and girls. So it's something like that. I mean, it's funny, like, whenever I do reviews of, I'll call them shallow reviews. Like if I review stuff like Creo or more blind bag kind of stuff, I usually get women over the age of 35. Now, what is that? It's moms, you know, moms that want to identify stuff while they're standing in Walmart. But otherwise, it's mostly male. It's mostly a male audience. And again, you see it through analytics. You see it through all the little social sciences of it that exist in toys. It's a whole discussion in itself, which is always fascinating. But yeah.
But sometimes kids can be watching stuff on their mom's account. I don't know.
No, that's true too. That is true too. I do agree. But it's odd that specific stuff that I've reviewed has a very strong adult female presence. And to me, it's moms, like Rescue Bot stuff. When I used to review them way back in the day, it seems like that was like the thing. It's like they would see the product and they probably open their phone and go, "Is this any good?" And then usually my video probably was one of the first one because who the hell was reviewing Rescue Bots back then? You know, like
I think you're just not the target of a bunch of thirsty moms.
Yeah, no, I hope not. It's funny. It's just because that's how that audience works. And I mean, that's how the future is going to be. You can't change it. It's in the same way that like grandpa probably looked at us and man, these kids don't go fishing anymore. You know, like, remember when we used to go fishing? Man, that was the best.
I kind of see it though.
And then we got the third party fishing companies and they were awesome, you know?
I kind of see it though that everything comes in cycles. And like you see certain sects of people that right now that like I have a coworker who is, you know, we're close in age, but he just is a minimalist. And I'm not. And he's
no collector is a minimalist.
Well, he's not a collector, but he's you know, just by nature, he's a minimalist person. Like he's got everything he buys is digital, movies, games, and you know, even like he's a musician on the side, and he just has a Casio keyboard and a Mac, and that is it.
Yeah, some people are like that.
You know, and well, I mean, we have like a mutual respect. He understands, like, you know, because like we're both new homeowners, and like he understands like my insanity, and I understand his insanity. You know, of not even having like all that much furniture. But it's kind of interesting. Like, you know, you see like things like the comic book industry, you know, a lot of people are like even in print, like people,
the printed word is on its way out.
Well, yeah, but I still see like the comic book industry existing in digital, and people still download.
It'll always exist in
Yeah.
the same way that in the 80s, Hot Wheels had their lowest numbers ever, and then it just got worse for them since then. Like, because the reality is, who the F is collecting Hot Wheels? But it's still there.
Market. Yeah.
It's still there. It's still there. It's not doing as well as it used to when action figures became the most important thing. But diecast cars, the market is still there. Someone's buying them. So it's the same thing. Comics will still exist, but it really is on its and when I say it's on its way out, I mean more that like the individual dedicated comic book stores, I think they're the first that are going to go, in the same way that just kind of how, when Netflix became a thing and people just stopped buying DVDs and renting, that was the end of the video rental market, and then they just died overnight. It was just felt like over a span of 2 months, they all just disappeared. And it's just,
in fact, we've had 2 or 3 comic book shops closed in the area just in the past few months.
I
had one by me and T-Man, Collector's Corner, wasn't it?
Collector's Corner.
I was having this conversation with my friend because this weekend we're like, all right, we're going to hit up all the shops. And we just went, shit, we lost 2 last year. From last year to this year, we lost 2 of them. So it's like, and that's just going to continue. Now you would think, yeah, but Avengers, it's going to beat Titanic. Wouldn't we be like, wouldn't like comic stores be thriving? No, because the market that you think it would be doesn't care. They really don't. They want to see the movie. They want to get that fix, but they're not interested in tangibly owning, this newsprint, that tells a story in 28 pages, and they don't want to own this plastic figure representation of this guy from the planet Titan. You know what I mean? So it's like it doesn't matter to them. It really doesn't. And it's
I can't
sad.
even comprehend that. I'm like, oh, that thing is cool. I must hold it.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Well, but we're different. Again,
we're hardwired.
We're wired differently. That we came from George Lucas in 1978, made those first Star Wars toys, and we haven't gone back since. And it was just like representation of product on TV. And our obsession with getting the perfect version of that, whether it be Majin Buu from Dragon Ball, or whether it be, Mowgli over there, like it doesn't make a difference. Like we want to have the best possible representation in 3D of what's on TV. Kids today, that's not the case. And it makes me sound like an old man when I say that, but it's like
we're all in the same boat. I mean,
that's me.
They really don't. They'll see Infinity War or they'll see Endgame and they'll be like, yeah, that was pretty cool, but I don't have this drive to go out and buy a $300 Hot Toys Thanos. You know what I mean? Or to buy an Infinity Gauntlet representation from Legends. I don't
need one of those.
But that's what I'm trying to see. There you go. I need one of those. I need one of those. But they don't. They to them, they'd like to hold it once, maybe take a selfie with it, put it on their Instagram, and then that's it. It's funny, actually. We were talking about that at TFCon. We were saying that kids now, to them, a selfie is more important than an autograph from a celebrity now. Like we were seeing that, like now there's more, like, because we collect the money from how many autograph sales to how many actual sales of photos, because there's also a photo with the guest. We're getting more increase now of photos with a guest than we do of an autograph.
Well, yeah, the selfie the autograph was the selfie. I mean, that was the proof that you met the person. Where now everyone and their fucking brother has a phone.
Because to have an autograph means you have to physically own something. When you have a selfie, that links into their digital world of showing off and putting it on Facebook and going, oh my God, I met insert here. So it's crazy we're seeing, and this has changed. Literally 2 years ago, we noticed the change because we'd be counting the money for each individual guest, and we're like, wow, there's a lot more photos with the guests than autographs now. It used to be like, autographs are this, photos are that. Now some guests, they charge the same price for the photo as the autograph because they realize that's more people are taking the photo now.
And I would think it's more about the individual too, because it's, this is an autograph I got. Well, did you buy that on eBay? Well, no, I met the guy. Well, how can you prove that? Well, now I'm like, well, here's my photo.
Here's me
Instagram.
Next to so-and-so. Exactly.
Yeah.
So like that's a real show and an uptick of the change of the market and how they they value more the digital world and digital product and how they share that product online and what they have. Look at all of us. We all buy the product and try to share our experiences with it online, whether it be photography or video reviews or just like, just taking a candid photo and then putting it on our Twitter account. It really doesn't matter how we do it, but even we're kind of guilty of it. Imagine an entire generation that was birthed in that. Facebook came out in 2005. There's kids that are, again, 25 now who all they know is Facebook.
Yeah.
That's all they know was that world where you documented every day of your life on on this digital platform. So think about that.
Oh, believe me, I'm thankful.
Oh God,
I didn't
of course.
have Facebook back in my 20s.
I joke about it all the time. Like when I have kids, I don't think they're going to learn what a phone is until they're like 18. And it's just gonna be like, "What's that you're holding, Daddy?" Oh, it's gum. It's gum.
It's a talk box. You don't need it.
Yeah, it's
It's Daddy's work. Don't worry.
It's a paperweight. It's a paperweight.
They won't want one.
They're going to have to find out from, and that's what's inevitable is they're going to find out from their classmates because you're going to have that one kid.
They're going to learn the way I did from the streets.
Well, there's going to be this one rich spoiled kid in grade 2 who's going to have like the iPhone 1000, and then it's going to be like, "Daddy, I want that," and it's like, "Oh boy, here we go." It's like that's the new talk now for us adults. We're not telling them about sex anymore. We're telling them about the iPhone and that crazy world.
Whatever you do, either way, don't put your opinion out there.
Yeah, don't have no opinion.
So to go back to TFCon, our buddy Nate Simmons had an interesting question.
Sure.
What went down with the whole ban of the screening of Transformers the movie? Are you able to talk about that at all?
Not much, but all I could just pretty much say is we were in LA. If you kind of put 2 and 2 together, you could figure out how close we were to Hollywood and people who own the trademarks and licenses to that. So
I blame Michael Bay.
When you start a movie, any movie, there's an FBI warning at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where one of the things that it says is when you play something in a public place, you have to have the rights to it. And let's just say someone came and said, "Excuse me, do you have the rights to that?" So
it's kind of crazy in the grand scheme of things, just because there was that long period of time where no one had the rights to Transformers the movie, to the point where it was legal to actually have the entirety of it on YouTube.
And it jumped around like crazy too, because it was Rhino had it for a bit, and then Metro Video had it for a bit. Again, this is when no one cared.
Yeah,
there used to be, like, it's funny today, everything's about nostalgia and bringing back all kinds of past licenses, like even like a Sonic the Hedgehog now with the movie. But it's like you look at back in the day, it's like when Transformers was done and then Ninja Turtles was on the way up, that was it. They thought, well, we're done. And then when Ninja Turtles was done and Power Rangers was coming up, they thought that was it. Now we're done with that. We got to move to the next one. So only I think the mid 90s was when they started looking at stuff and going like, hey, we got some old brands here, and if we could revitalize them, we could do stuff with it. And I think Beast Wars was really one of the first ones to do that. I think Nintendo, when they started doing re-releases of their old video games, like when they did Mario All-Star, they started going like, oh, people care about our old games, like they don't just want the latest thing. So they started realizing, you could kind of go backwards and make money from the past. And so that, then they started keeping those trademarks, like I said before, and really thinking about reusing product. Now look at Hollywood today. What isn't something from the past?
Oh, right. Everything is literally nostalgia.
When's our next RoboCop reboot? When's our next Aliens reboot? When's our next Predator?
I don't even think it's reboots that are the niche thing anymore. It's doing sequels to movies that haven't had sequels in 20 years.
Well, yeah. Well, that's just it. Whatever it may be, it's just that's kind of how it is now. Is you got to have to focus on the past now.
Right.
And I think it's mostly a product of because our generation held on to its past longer than past generations. I always use the example of every adult of any generation does what they did as a child. It's just that our generation, we played with toys as kids. So as adults, we collect toys. But no one will ever criticize someone who grew up in the 40s and they fished or they skated in a skating rink or, they played football. If they did that as an adult, would we call them immature? No, Of course not. If all of a sudden your grandfather went fishing, even though he went fishing when he was 10, we wouldn't call him immature. Oh, look at you! You're doing what you did when you were a kid.
Right.
You know.
Well, there's that argument about practicality.
Well, what is practical, really? I mean, it's
well, even with like say football, for example. I mean, how many millions do these guys make?
I'm saying people that just play football. Even
no,
casually.
right, but I'm right. No, I'm with you. I'm just saying too. Like, I mean, they are kids' games that people get paid full-time, salaries to play. And then everyone else goes and buys merchandise for those because, like you said, they played it when they were little and all. So that's, I don't know. I think that has a part of this.
If you wore a shirt with Chewbacca on it, you're considered immature. But if you wore a shirt that had a football team on it, it's totally fine. You know what I mean? But
Super Bowl Sunday, that's the Dragon Con of the sports world.
Totally, exactly. So it's something that slowly with this next generation of parents that grew up on this stuff that we're seeing now, it's that's why geek became chic. That's why Game of Thrones and Avengers and all this, because that generation grew up and it's okay to like that stuff. It used to be like, I remember like Conan O'Brien going to look at the line for Star Wars.
Right, yeah.
Star Wars Episode 2 and going like, look at all these nerds in line to see Star Wars Episode 2. Where was that joke when Force Awakens came out? Not anymore. It's been 10 long years, actually more than that, since Star Wars Episode 2, where it's like now they're not, and now Conan's doing video game reviews.
I was just about to say that.
So everyone just kind of had to evolve with the times and realize that this is what's cool now because that audience grew up into that and they dictate what is hip. So it's a whole other story. Like there's
that whole Grandpa Simpson line, and he's like, I used to be with it. Yeah.
I used to be with it. And then changed what it is. Yeah. And now I'm not with it.
Now what's it is scary to me.
So, but you know what? But the funny thing is I think that our generation is more adaptable because like what kids play today, we're more open-minded to. Like we don't look at like Fortnite or Minecraft or stuff like that and go, what are these kids playing today? Back in my day, we had Lego.
I look at Fortnite as, wow, finally there's something to keep kids out of the games that I want to play.
But either way, it's to me like at least we have all this great stuff now. I think it's a great time to be a nerd. Let's put it this way, more than ever. It's just that I just worry about the future in terms of how much of a lot is going to change in the toy world. I think that 3D printing is going to really shake the industry. I feel that I look at 3D printing in the same way how the CD burner when it first came on the scene changed everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like when the CD burner first came out back in '96, it was like $500 to have it installed in your tower. A blank disc was like $10, and this is like '96.
Yeah.
And then a short 5 years later in 2000, every computer has a burner in it, like installed with it when you buy it. And a spindle of blank CDs was like, 50 for like $10 or something, like at the dollar store. It got to that point. So I feel that 3D printing is going to kind of have that same kind of evolution. Maybe not as quick as CD burning was, but I think at one point 3D printers are going to become more of a staple in a household. And it'll just be as simple as, I'm going to the dollar store to get my red beads, so I could print a fork, or something.
Yeah, they've definitely got the in-home, like the affordable consumer.
Oh, but it's going to be even more. Like
that's what I was going to say. Is like there's going to be see them in like Target and Kohl's.
There's going to be a Walmart version that's going to be amazing and cheap. And then the materials are going to have a Walmart equivalency that'll be amazing and cheap. And when that happens, and it's in every household, just like how like slowly like Google Homes and Alexas kind of all like, just snuck into households, it's going to be the same thing. 3D printers, when they finally make it cheap enough, it's going to get into every household, and that's going to change the game because you're going to have people that are going to be like, hey, you go to Target and you buy a code and you just print out your toy. And it's going to be nuts. And when it gets to that point, and I've seen guys online that are already printing, completely articulated action figures in one shot with 3D printing in full color. And when we get to that point where it's going to be so perfect, Hasbro is just going to be like, what do I need Walmart for? I'm going to sell you a code through the Google App Store, or the iTunes Store, and then you're just going to like, digitally Bluetooth it to your 3D printer, and then you're going to walk away, and 5 minutes later, you're going to have your Transformer toy, and it's going to get to that point. I think that's what I feel it is. I mean, Hasbro already has the trademarks for it. They trademarked all of that stuff a while back, and they've done nothing with it really outside of what they want to do stuff with Star Wars first.
I mean, you still need designers, and you still need, you still need to have good designers on top of that.
Well, they're the ones who are going to be designing those 3D printed products. That's the thing. Yeah. They're going to be the ones
people that can do color layout, and I mean that stuff's hard.
It's still it'll still be around, but it's going to be like the old South Park episode. They're taking our jobs, but it's like it's gonna decrease heavily.
The thing about this way, like you only need 1 or 2 apps on your phone. Like you needed Photoshop to do some crazy special effects in your pictures and stuff, but now there's a handful of apps on your phone that can shortcut around and make it
and it's all free.
Yeah, and it makes it look like brilliant, professional work.
And when it's free, you ask yourself, well, who's making money? How is anyone making money?
But I mean, the other factor too is you're still going to want stuff that's injection molded. You're still going to want those niche things.
We're talking from how 3D printing is right now. Yeah. I'm saying in the future, like I could see it. They're going to get to that point where we're going to have a 3D printer that's also an assembler. Like we're going to have stuff that's like it's going to do 2 things at once. It's going to print the product, but it's also going to pop it in. It's going to have like, who would have thought in like, let's say when we first got the internet in like 95, 96, that we would have something that was way more powerful in our pocket, that would do everything in a touchscreen. Like the thing with technology is you can't predict how it's going to be in 10 years because it moves so fast.
Yeah, the 3D printers that we're talking about now don't exist yet. We have no idea what they're going to look like. It's not going to be the box that has the articulated arm in it.
It's going to be something crazy. It's going to be something crazy for sure.
I'm looking forward to replicators because I want to just be able to walk up to the wall and say, T, twisted, cold, and bloop, there it comes. And I got my twisted tea. By the way, this episode brought to you by Twisted Tea.
Hard iced tea. But yeah, that's the way I see it. That's the way I see it. Like that's the future of the market. I mean, it's not happening tomorrow, but it's something that I constantly pay attention to because it will affect like me right now. Like what toys am I buying right now? I'm looking at old 90s toys. I'm looking at like, I'm buying backwards. If anything, sometimes I'm kind of like going backwards to some of the older stuff. I think that's what happens when you get older. You start really starting to buy some of the old shit that you couldn't get
I was
before.
looking at a Kenner Future Batman the other day.
There you go. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I think you hit a certain point where then you start really looking at the old stuff. And I mean, at the same time, I'm kind of curious what the market's going to do in the future and how I could wrap around that. But at the same time, it's like, I'm just kind of curious. I just want to see what's going to be the next thing because it's a rapidly changing market. The audiences are rapidly changing too. It's not what it used to be. And companies are just going to have to evolve and change. And again, that's why I always say pay attention to those Hasbro reports because it really gives you a good indication of what's going on right now. I mean, even from like Hasbro's gaming side where they focus on like Magic the Gathering and board games. Board games are in the toilet right now. No one's buying. Oh yeah, no one's buying board games, but card games are up. Card games are up. So, but again, adult market. There's more adults playing D&D and board games and stuff like that from like a Magic the Gathering standpoint, but like the traditional board games like Monopoly and stuff not doing as well because kids today.
That's fair. So I was gonna say because I thought the indie board game scene was.
No, that's still doing well, but that's not Hasbro. You know what I mean? That's not like that's not Hasbro. Like Monopoly, Trouble, Guess Who? That stuff's not doing well for them because. A kid's not going to sit down and spend 2 hours playing Monopoly or Snakes and Ladders or the Game of Life when they probably have an app for that, if anything, like to them, it's just like they rather play The Sims than the Game of Life. They rather play an equivalency of something like SimCity than like Monopoly or some kind of building app. So
T was playing Sims 4 before we started this.
Well, there you go. There you go.
All right, guys, you wanna start to wrap
it up then? Alrighty.
Yeah, I think before we go, anybody in the audience have any questions? Going once, going twice. I know Nate Simmons had probably got all of his out.
I think that.
Yeah, right.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I think some of them might have fallen asleep.
Yeah. I've been rambling
and
too
not
long.
and not because we're boring, but because it's getting late.
This is one of our longest shows. It's been a great one.
Yeah,
definitely.
I
Lot of
apologize for
energy. A lot of energy.
I apologize for that.
It's all good, man.
No, it's all good.
No, I was saying in the chat we need to have you on again too, because it's just so easy to let you go, and you have so much knowledge and behind the scenes stuff that's just like it's too. I could sit here for hours.
When you have a perspective of stuff, it kind of answers a lot of the age-old questions that a lot of people ask. You know, like, why doesn't this exist? And it's like, well, here's X, Y, and Z why it doesn't exist.
Well, what I'm liking is because we've had some people on in the past. I'm not sure if you've caught our world famous show.
I was just informed of its existence as of a couple of hours ago.
We had, for example, we've had some like Cassie Sark from the third party designers. So it's just it's nice getting. We've had a lot of some of the indie background. So it's great hearing some of the mainstream perspective on these things too. So this has been very informative.
And it gives awesome. A logical conclusion to a lot of very simple answers. That's what I always say. And that's, because you get asked a lot of stuff that really, it's like, why doesn't this exist? And it's like, well, here's why.
Here's why.
And it's a business. that's what you have to remember.
When it's all said and done, when everything is said and done, doesn't matter how much passion one has, but is the dollars coming in?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And on that note,
I think the audience has answered. They're good to go. So let's run down the panel. We'll get some where you at. Starting off with True Star Screamer. I know you've got a lot of photography rolling out the gate. So if anybody wants to see that, where can they find it?
I was going to say my YouTube channel is pretty much defunct, but Instagram is on fire at True Star Screamer. I've got Overwatch figures up there. I've got the Lightning Collection figures up there right now. I have to say that's some of my top work as of late. And as things roll in, we get more stuff out. I still have some NECA and things to do. So please give me a like there. You can catch me every Thursday with these fine gentlemen and hopefully this other gentleman again sometime here on the Figure Action Podcast. And in about 10-15 minutes, you can catch me on the PSN network playing some Mortal Kombat 11. Challenges are open. True Star Screamer.
Very cool. Very cool. Parts Former, how about you, buddy?
I'm going to be wondering how Dave has the strength to go play anything right now when I am ready to go to bed soon. I am
sit on the sofa.
I am at Parts Former on any of the things that you want to search: the Twitters, the Instagrams, the Xbox Lives.
Pornhub.
I'm not actually on Pornhub. I am not at Parts Former, but I won't tell you what I'm at because I can't think of anything real clever right now. So insert clever joke here.
That's unlockable on his Patreon.
Fabs Former.
How about you, Joe?
You can find my photography on the Figure Action Podcast Instagram, and you can find me here every Thursday.
And
what about that guy?
And that's it. Nowhere else.
Anybody else?
And you can find Boo and his nice little surprise that he's got for you right here. Let me get it closer. There you go.
Wait. Do you sit there and stroke its head and go, "Who's my boo? You my boo?"
Oh man.
Oh, T-Man's not here for that.
Yeah. Well, you know, and love T-Man, but he's got to sleep.
He's gonna sleep for like 3 hours, then wake up in the middle of the night to do reviews.
Basically, yeah. I'm gonna try and watch his review after this, depending on whether or not my significant other wants to go to sleep.
Or what else?
Well, if she wants to sleep, he's watching the review. Let's put it that way.
Or rub his Super Boo.
Hopefully, I can get my Super Boo rubbed. But. T-Man978, you can find his YouTube channel.
On YouTube.
He loves to say that you can find him anywhere. You can just Google him. I think he's coming up on a subscriber milestone, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check that, but I believe he's coming up on 12. Is it 12,000 subscribers?
I'm clicking on it right now.
He's gonna click.
Yes, he is. He is 33 subscribers away from 12,000.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. So if you're not already subscribed to him, make sure you subscribe to our good friend and his chill reviews. I'm just going to give him, because probably by the time we hit our next episode, he will be at that milestone. So
yeah,
as he would say. Protoman, where can any of our fans find your content at?
If you want them to find you.
If you want them to find you, yeah.
I'm on Twitter at Protoman. That's probably the best central way to find me. I post a lot of my stuff on there. I have a YouTube channel. I have an Instagram, all that stuff. I have a podcast called Transformer Slag that I've been doing for about 12 years now, where we just kind of break down what's going on in the industry of Transformers from a third party and from an official side. Really, it's called Transformers Slag because it's how we say shit in Transformers, and it's just pretty much breaking the shit down in Transformers. I have a YouTube review channel that I once in a while drop stuff on there when I have time, but really just my Twitter account at Protoman. You'll get to see all the stuff that I post on there. I like to post prototypes, all kinds of stuff that works on the creative side of Transformers. Once in a while, I'll post links to stuff that I work on creatively, whether it be a comic book or a bio or a YouTube review or a podcast.
Done and done.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
but yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, my Twitter account's probably the best hub for all of that.
Very cool. So anybody out there, make sure you give him a subscribe. Check out his content. As for me, you can find me here every Thursday night with these fine gentlemen. You can find me on Twitter at the Original Zero. You can find me on the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live as Extra Zero. There's a space in between Extra and Zero on Xbox Live. You can find me in the Facebook groups as James Jordan. This will wrap another episode of Figure Action. I want to thank everybody who tuned in, anybody who participated in the live chat tonight. We always love having you. Our special guest, Protoman. And we will see you all next week live on YouTube, Thursday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Pacific Time. It's been a pleasure, and have a good night, everybody.
See ya.
Good night.